Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, God Level Choice. Obito, come and inherit the Hokage. Chapter 51. Advertisement. Finally, Amai Katsutoshi still left the IOU and left with the principal. Uchiha, he really can't afford to offend. Go to the next one. Lin's mother's name is Nohara Keiko. She said gratefully, holding Obito's hand. Little classmate, it's really thanks to you today, otherwise. Obito smiled, waved his hand and said, "Hee, it's just a little effort, auntie, don't worry about it. These guys are really too much. I will talk to my cousin when I get back and ask him to pay more attention to them recently." Keiko pointed to the house behind and smiled at Obito. "To express my gratitude, let's have dinner at auntie's house tonight. Auntie's cooking is really good." Obito scratched his head shyly. "Isn't it too intrusive? Half a second later, that's really troublesome for you." "Keiko, you might as well hesitate for 2 more seconds, or let me say a polite word. Your change from before and after didn't take more than a second. Are you afraid that your aunt will steal your lines?" Lin is well aware of Obito's outrageous temperament. She stepped forward and hugged her mother, who was a little overwhelmed, and said with a smile, "Mom, let's go in and talk." "Ah, okay." After several people entered the house, Keiko put on her apron and tied her hair and said, "Lin, you can chat with me in the living room for a while, and I'll prepare dinner." Lin nodded obediently. "Okay, mother." After Keiko entered the kitchen, Rin looked at Obito and said, "Obito, it's a good thing I have you today, otherwise I wouldn't know what to do." Obito said with a smile, "Hey, it's my duty to protect Lin-chan. No omega less than." Disgusting. Lin's face turned red and she punched Obito. "Speaking of which, Obito-kun came to see me so late. What's the matter?" Obito shook his head and said seriously, "Advertisement. No, it's not like I haven't seen you for a day. I miss you a little, so I just wanted to come and see you." "Why, I can't come to you if I have nothing to do." Lin hummed softly. "Dang, of course." The two chatted for a while. Keiko came out with the food. Have to say, Keiko's cooking is really good, and Obito's food tastes really good. After Obito helped clear away the dishes, he stood up and said goodbye. Keiko said, "Come here often when you have time, little Obito." "Lin, go see your classmates off." Obito said with a smile. "Okay, no need to send it off, my home is very close. Goodbye auntie, goodbye Lin-chan. You, I can't love you too much, let me keep you with all my heart." Humming a little tune, Obito returned home happily. "Today, my relationship with Lin-chan is one step closer," he thought happily. "Speaking from now on, the two of them have met each other's parents." "Hey, that's great." Obito threw himself on the cot. "After a while, I fell into a beautiful dream. But at this moment, a warning sound suddenly sounded in his mind. Successful selection. Get reward. 1 card chakra. What the hell? Obito's little heart was beating fast. I was immediately startled awake by the sudden sound. What mission have I accomplished by sleeping? He squinted his eyes and looked at the light curtain that did not exist in front of him. 1 card of chakra. Misaka. Is it the mission to find a way to make Naruto born early? So Minato-sensei is pregnant. Wait, something seems not right. Obito was so excited that he couldn't sleep either. Advertisement. Climbed out of bed directly. Another card of chakra, great. I'm in the lead now, Kakashi, that virtual dog. I will learn Reikiri later. I will hold up Reikiri and chat with you for 3 days and 3 nights. Let me show you what long-lasting means, virtual dog. And if the chakra is rich, it will also be convenient for me to use magic in the future. In one word, it's so cool." Obito excitedly used Shadow Clone in the room. "It's like he suddenly became rich now. I want to spend money and have fun." The card is for Benshin Nokis. A puff of smoke appeared and dissipated. Shadow Clone Obito slowly opened his eyes. "Afei, Buddha can only tolerate you 3 times. Next time you. Good guy, why did you call your kid out?" Obito slapped the Shadow Clone away with a slap. "Made a mistake, come again." The card is for Benshin Nokis. Another Shadow Clone appeared. As soon as he came out, he enjoyed breathing the fresh air. "Phew, it's finally my turn to come out." Obito groped his chin. Looking at his Shadow Clone, he fell into deep thought. Speaking of which, I have so much chakra now, can I use Shadow Clone to practice? Shadow Clone. If you had known I wouldn't come out, you might as well have let me go back. Obito. What kind of weird things are my own Shadow Clone? I'm obviously so normal. Why are you all so outrageous? Obito dispersed the Shadow Clone and lay down on the cot again. Well, if I do this, Naruto's plug-in will be gone. Obito thought. But if you have a choice, Naruto should be more eager to have a perfect family. Advertisement. The thoughts are flowing. Obito fell asleep again. The next day, Obito got up with 2 dark circles under his eyes. I swear, I will stay up late tonight. If I stay up late again, I will swear again. Obito was anxious all day long and arrived at the usual gathering place. Morning Rin-chan, Kakashi. Good morning, Obito-kun. Morning. Obito looked around and saw that Mr. Minato hadn't arrived yet. I probably know it in my heart. Teacher Minato probably gave birth last night and was busy working until midnight. I haven't thought about it yet. So he moved closer to Lin and raised the topic with excitement. Lin-chan, do you believe in horoscopes? I heard that Aquarius and Scorpio are very compatible. Lin said with her big eyes blinking. We Scorpios are suspicious by nature, so we don't believe in zodiac signs. Kakashi. Obito. He felt that there were more than 400 bones in his body now. Because he cracked. Not a moment later, Minato also fell from a height with 2 big black eyes. Although his face was full of exhaustion, the joy in his eyes could not be concealed. Obito took 2 steps forward and said with a smile. Minato-sensei, you are late. Minato smiled slightly and said a little apologetically. I'm sorry, the teacher has something to do today, so I'm a little late. There are no tasks today. You can practice on your own. If you have any questions, you can ask the teacher at any time. Kakashi looked at Minato carefully and said thoughtfully. Minato-sensei, you are here for Shadow Clone, right? Minato nodded. Ah, yes, the teacher is not finished yet, so. Advertisement. Kakashi Guy. Obito stepped forward and grabbed Kakashi. Without any explanation, she dragged him and walked towards the woods. Go ahead, Teacher Minato, don't worry about us, we're going to practice. Lin smiled and waved to Minato, and followed him into the woods. I'm going too, Minato-sensei. Minato said with some emotion. This kid Obito, although sometimes unreliable, is still very sensible at critical moments. In the woods, Kakashi glanced at Obito and asked while touching his forehead protector. You guy, do you know something? Obito pretended to be stupid and said blankly. What do I know about me? I have no idea what you're talking about. Kakashi snorted and ignored Obito. He threw away his arm and went to practice aside. This arrogant and weird. Obito pouted. He slowed down and leaned next to Lin. Lin-chan, what are you planning to practice today? Do you need me to accompany you? Lin smiled and shook her head. No need, Obito-kun, I can just practice by myself. Obito said, reluctantly. Well, if you need sparring, call me anytime. Okay. He watched helplessly as Lin drifted away. Obito sighed and began his own practice. But not for a while. He felt a little bored. He glanced at Kakashi not far away. He rolled his eyes twice and walked over with a wicked smile. Kakashi saw Obito coming over. He frowned slightly and put away his short sword. What? Obito said with a cheeky smile. Come here Kakashi, I'll show you something. Advertisement. Kakashi's heart moved slightly. After looking around, he whispered quietly. Lin is still around, isn't it bad? Obito. No, what do you think I want to show you? What does it matter if Lin is there or not? Obito said with a speechless expression. Where are you thinking? I'll show you something serious without having to carry anyone behind your back. Hearing this, Kakashi pulled out the short sword and waved it around. I don't have time, I have to continue practicing. Joke. Who is serious about watching this? Obito. At last, he forcibly hugged Kakashi and walked deeper into the forest. Lin stopped what she was doing. Looking at the backs of the two hugging each other, their eyes were slightly complicated. Kakashi and Obito-kun are so inseparable. Obito pulled Kakashi and stopped in a secluded place. Kakashi asked indifferently with his salty eyes. What exactly are you going to show me? Come on, show me. Obito chuckled, rubbed his little hands and said, "Just be careful and don't be surprised." He formed a seal with his hands and skillfully found the feeling of stuck phlegm. Fire style great fireball technique. Call out. A great fireball flew out and hit the ground in the distance. That's it. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. I feel like I'm wasting my time and my life. Let me warn you first, this guy will set fire to the mountain and be careful to get through the prison. Obito said with a smile. Don't worry, just keep reading. He formed a seal with his hands and spit out another mouthful of fire. Fire style great fireball technique. Kakashi crossed his arms and watched the scene calmly. Fire style great fireball technique. Advertisement. Fire style great fireball technique. Fire style great fireball technique. Times 20. Kakashi is no longer so calm. The expression on his face gradually changed from calm to shock. This is not over yet, Obito is still going on. Earth style wall. Earth style wall. Earth style wall. Times 20. Kakashi, why does this guy have so much chakra? Obito stopped without knowing what he wanted to say. Glancing at the stunned Kakashi, he chuckled and clapped his hands. How's it going? My chakra level is pretty good, right? Kakashi said with a slight hum. It's just okay, just so. Obito sighed and said, I think so too. For those ninjutsu just now, I used almost a third of my chakra. Hey, I have so little chakra. Kakashi was annoyed and rolled his eyes at Obito. Childish, huh? Immediately he left without looking back. Hey, don't leave, let's practice together. Snort. Afternoon. Obito originally asked Kakashi to play chess. But Guy took the lead and pulled Kakashi away from the duel. Then, Obito held the small box and ran to find Shikaha to play with. The house of Shikaba's family is very big, very big. I have to ask how big it is. A conservative estimate would be that it would be 3 times the price of my own home. There are also small pavilions and well-designed gardens outside. If that guy hadn't gone on a mission, he would have been there, right? Obito turned left and right on a familiar road and arrived at Nara's small pavilion. Sure enough, I saw a lazy pineapple head. He lay on the wooden floor with his head in his hands, looking at the clouds in the sky boredly. Shikaha heard the movement and slowly stood up. Advertisement. Why are you here? Obito smiled and raised the box in Yang's hand. Good brother, do you want to play chess? Shikaha shrugged his shoulders, a smile on his face. Well, I'm bored, come on. The two of them were sitting in a small pavilion. Obito unfolded the folded chessboard, and Shikaha arranged the chess pieces. The two began to kill. Obito-kun, I didn't expect you to be a pretty good player at chess. Obito smiled proudly. It's okay, it's okay. He is interested in everything except studying. Whether it's Go, chess, backgammon, military chess, war chess, auto chess. I've probably dabbled in them all. Seeing Obito's happy look, Shikaha also smiled. In fact, he was deliberately giving in to Obito. Otherwise, he could win this game within 10 moves. Something like playing chess. They are evenly matched, which makes them fun to play. After playing a few games with Shikaha, Obito felt something was wrong. He raised his head and asked suspiciously, Shikaha-kun, aren't you giving in to me? Liu Yu was slightly shocked. He shook his head without changing his expression and said with some confusion. No, why do you say that? Is it really not there? Obito muttered quietly. This kind of matching mechanism is to win one game and lose one game. It always feels familiar, giving people a feeling of being dominated. The two played together all afternoon. It's getting late. Everyone's stomachs growled. Obito-kun, why don't you have dinner at my place tonight? Shikama suggested. Obito readily agreed. Okay, what delicious food can Shikaha-kun make? Shikaha said, I'm not very good at cooking, but I have instant canned food at home. Advertisement. Obito slapped his head. What are you thinking about? Shikaha is so lazy, how can he cook by himself? Then let's eat canned food. Shikaha nodded. Okay, then wait for me for a while. Say it. He ran home in a hurry. Then I took out 2 cans. Obito-kun, which one do you want to eat? Obito took a look and saw 2 cans with similar outer packaging. He asked with some curiosity. What kind of cans are these 2? Shikaha introduced. One is canned black pepper beef, and the other is also canned black pepper beef. Obito. Ah. Are there other flavors? Yes, wait a moment. Lu Yu returned home again and walked out with a cardboard box. I also have potatoes and beef, tomatoes with scrambled eggs, kung pao chicken. Oops, there are quite a lot of types. Obito asked. Well, which one is more delicious? Lu Yu thought for a while and said sincerely. To be honest, they don't taste very good. Obito, are you trying to make things difficult for me, who has a phobia of choice? After struggling for a while, he randomly picked a can of tomatoes and scrambled eggs. Shikaha opened a can of beef and potatoes. The two of them were sitting in a small pavilion. While eating, we started chatting. Obito-kun, what do you think of this canned tomato scrambled egg? Advertisement. Obito smacked his lips and said after tasting the food. It's okay, but it smells like tomato. The two of them chatted about useless topics. After eating, we rubbed our bellies together, lying in the pavilion and watching the moon. After a while of silence, Lu Yu suddenly said, I've been careful lately, it's not very peaceful over there at the border. Obito glanced at Shikaha thoughtfully. As a member of the Nara clan, Shikaha should know a lot of inside information. You guys should be more careful, Obito said seriously. After all, it's in his memory. After the beginning of the Hokage plot, Shikaha has never been seen. There was a bad guess in his mind. That was Shikaha, who should have died in the Third Ninja War. Not just him, maybe Sparrow, Ayako and others. Certainly, Sparrow is not from a wealthy family. Or maybe it's just that it's too bad and has little impact on the plot, so Kishimoto is too lazy to draw it. Seeing Lu Yu was a little disapproving, Obito said angrily. I'm not telling you, practice more when you have nothing to do, don't always find it troublesome. In the face of absolute strength, little cleverness has no effect. Lu Yu snorted twice. Well, I understand. On the way home, Obito let out a long sigh. Hey, war, only strong strength is the foundation of this world. The Battle of Canopy Bridge. It was like the sword of Damocles hanging over his head. Let him never dare to relax. Then where should I focus my energy in the next period of time? Just as Obito was thinking. Advertisement. The system beeped and provided him with 3 options. Option 1. Break the existing record and become the youngest Jonin in Konoha. Completion reward. Hope of the whole village. Option 2. Master the 3 forbidden techniques through any method. Completion reward. Flying Thunder God technique. Option 3. Master 20 types of fire style and earth style ninjutsu each. Completion reward. Bloodline limit lava style. Hope of the whole village. You who break the record are regarded as the hope of the whole village, and all attributes are increased by 10%, until your record is broken again. The rewards this time are very good. Obito looked at the light screen in front of him carefully. Option 2 is outrageous. Although I covet Flying Thunder God, I have no access to Forbidden Technique now. Besides, Forbidden Technique is so difficult to practice. I'm not Minato-sensei or Orochimaru. What if I can't learn a single one in several years? In comparison, options 1 and 3 are more reliable. Although these 2 options are somewhat difficult. But before the Battle of Canopy Bridge, Obito was confident to complete the option. Speaking of which, if I became Jonin, the village wouldn't send our team directly to the frontal battlefield. Hiss, that's a Shira field, a human meat grinder. And there are so many monsters in Konoha, so this reward probably won't take long. After careful consideration, Obito decided to choose option 3. After making a choice, Obito's steps became much more brisk. With my current strength, coupled with lava style, I can beat the average Jonin. Arrive home. Obito was lying on his little bed. Think about how to complete this option. For fire style, you can ask Uncle Kang. Earth style, Uncle Kang himself doesn't know much, so what's the deal? Minato-sensei is not good at earth style, and Milkman definitely doesn't have time to contact others for me these 2 days. Why don't you go find that person? By the way, you can also try to make friends with him or something. After making up your mind, Obito pulled the quilt over his head. He closed his eyes and fell asleep peacefully. Early the next morning, Obito arrived outside the Hokage building. After being inspected by the Anbu ninja, he entered the Hokage office. Third generation put down the teacup in surprise. Advertisement. Little Obito, why are you here? Do you have anything to do with Grandpa? Obito said with a smile. Grandpa Hokage, I'm here to ask you to teach me some Earth-style ninjutsu. That's right. The person Obito is looking for is the third generation project. There are 2 reasons. One is the third generation program known as Ninjutsu Professor. Can freely use the 7 chakra attributes and Grandmaster's all-attribute ninjutsu. The second is to want to have a relationship. There is an effect in psychology called the Franklin effect. It means that when you ask someone to do a small favor within your ability, it will make the other person have a good impression of you. Third generation looked at Obito and said a little apologetically. Little Obito, Grandpa still has a lot of documents to deal with and doesn't have time to accompany you. Obito formed a seal with his hands and skillfully used the seduction technique. Ah, no, Grandpa Hokage. Looking at the long, straight and plump lady in front of her. Third generation wiped the bleeding nose and said seriously. So come back later, and when Grandpa has finished processing the documents, he will guide you in your practice. Sister Yu nodded obediently and left with satisfaction. Yeah, thank you Grandpa Hokage. After Obito leaves, third generation glanced at the pile of documents on the table and fell into deep thought. After a while, he knocked on the table hard. An Anbu fell in quietly. Lord Hokage, what are your orders? Third generation pointed to the documents on the table. Go and deliver these documents to Danzo. Just tell him that I have something to do today and ask him to take care of it for me. Yes, Danzo. Advertisement. In fact, the third generation project was not caused by seduction. That's why I decided to guide Obito in his training. In Konoha, which cadre cannot withstand such a test? He had deeper considerations. First of all, although Obito has an out-of-touch personality, his talent is not bad. And speaking of it, it can be regarded as his direct inheritance. Coupled with Obito's special background, under comprehensive consideration, the third generation project is happy to invest some time and energy in this child. Hiruzen slowly stood up and stretched comfortably. Well, even if the documents are processed, it's been a really hard day. He took off his Hokage robe. Wearing black uniforms, he walked outside. Anbu asked respectfully at the door. Lord Hokage, do you need us to follow you? Third generation laughed and waved his hands. No, you can go and rest. Is there anyone who dares to attack him in his own territory? Exit the Hokage building. Third generation immediately saw Obito, a street kid with nothing to do, not far away. He smiled and waved to Obito. Obito, come on, Grandpa will take you to practice ninjutsu. Obito trotted over in surprise. Grandpa Hokage, you finished processing so many documents so quickly. You are so awesome, he said with admiration. Third generation stroked his goatee and said with a smile. Ha 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 ha, this is just the most basic ability of being a Hokage. Let's go to the training ground west of the village. Third generation took Obito and headed towards the training ground. Along the way, from time to time, villagers say hello to third generation. He responded with a smile, completely without the airs of the Hokage. Advertisement. Like a nice, ordinary old man. Obito muttered quietly. Hokage is really hard to do. Came to the training ground. Third generation stands in front of Obito. After thinking for a while, he spoke. Grandpa will teach you Earth-style Earth Thorn technique today. The ground spike technique is a ninjutsu that pours chakra into the surface of the earth, causing the rock and soil to condense into sharp ground spikes that can pierce the enemy from below. The key point of performing this technique is, third generation is truly a ninjutsu professor. The in-depth explanation was an eye-opener for Obito. It turns out that ninjutsu can still be learned like this. After showing Obito several demonstrations, third generation said with a smile on his face. Okay, little Obito, come and try it. Yoshi. Obito formed a seal with his hands and slapped the ground heavily. Earth-style Earth Thorn technique. A breeze blew by, but nothing happened. Well, Obito scratched his head. Did I shout loud enough or didn't shoot hard enough? Earth-style Earth Thorn technique. Boom, sound of slapping the ground. A crow flies by. Apart from the sound of quacking, there was no other sound. Ah, My hand hurts so much tat. Obito said with a sad face. Third generation was amused by Obito. Ha ha ha, don't lose heart, little Obito. The ground thorn technique is not easy to use. It is normal to not be able to use it once or twice. Third generation glanced at the time and said with a smile. Well, little Obito, you can practice here by yourself. Grandpa has something else to do, so he will go back first. When you have mastered this ninjutsu, come see Grandpa and he will teach you new ninjutsu. It was rare that he got off work early today, and Hiruzen wanted to go home and do something else. The difficulty of the ground thorn technique is moderate, which should be enough for Obito to digest for a while. Good. Advertisement. Obito nodded, just about to agree. However, unexpectedly, the system gave a multiple-choice question. Option 1. Tell third generation, actually, I was just teasing you. I have already learned this ninjutsu. Completion reward. Earth-style earth thorn technique. Option 2. Tell third generation, this ninjutsu is too simple. It only requires hands. Can't you teach me something else? Completion reward. Unknown. Option 3. Tell third generation, thank you so much. My grandma has made a new batch of fruit wine. I will come back and get you 2 jars to try. Completion reward. Filial Junior. Filial Junior. When you attack an elder, all attributes will be increased by 5%. Obito quickly looked through the options. Unknown reward. Such an arrogant option looks like a trap at first glance. Pass. A filial junior. This filial piety is somewhat degenerate. Pass. I choose option 1. Obito stopped the third generation and said. Grandpa Hokage. Actually, I was teasing you just now. I have already learned this ninjutsu. Oh. Third generation looked at Obito in surprise. Successful selection. Get rewards. Earth-style earth thorn technique. Once the reward arrives, Obito won't beep much. He directly formed a seal with his hands and slapped the ground like this again. Look, earth-style earth thorn technique. Boo-hoo. Sharp thorns emerged from the ground. Suddenly it stabbed 2 to 3 meters high. The third generation target has a strange expression. Has this child really learned it? This talent is no worse than Orochimaru. But this temperament really makes people laugh or cry a bit. Third generation glanced at the time. Lake Biwa should be dancing outside right now. Then Grandpa will teach you a new ninjutsu, called Earth-style Tulan Spear technique. This technique is quite similar to the ground thorn technique, but there are some differences when activating the chakra. After another explanation and demonstration. Advertisement. Third generation gave Obito a try. Obito danced for a long time, but still couldn't master it. Call. See, Obito really didn't learn it this time. Third generation finally breathed a sigh of relief and turned around to leave. But at this moment, Obito stopped him again. Grandpa Hokage. Third generation turned his head again and said helplessly. Obito, you weren't just teasing Grandpa again, were you? Obito said with a smile. No, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your patience in guiding me in practice today. Third generation was stunned for a moment, then smiled happily. This is what a grandpa should do. Goodbye little Obito. Goodbye Grandpa Hokage. Night. Danzo returned to his roots happily. When he saw an extra pile of documents on the table, his brows knitted together deeply. What is this and why does it appear on my desk? A root member knelt down on one knee and responded respectfully. This is a document sent from Hokage's office. They said that Hokage has something to do temporarily, and these documents will be handled by you. Danzo said, and asked curiously. What can happen to that guy Hiruzen? Root Ninja responded. Someone saw Hokage at the training ground today. He seemed to be instructing Uchiha Obito's training. Danzo feels unhappy about this. Good on you Hiruzen. It's up to you to win people's hearts. Leave all the thankless things to me. He slammed the table and said angrily. The Uchiha clan is born evil. HMPH. Bring me a lamp, I won't be going home tonight. One person, one pen. One night, one miracle. Advertisement. Obito had calculated everything, but he didn't realize it. In this way, I will be remembered by old silver coin. He now lives a very fulfilling life every day. When third generation had time, he used 2 Earth-style moves. Third generation had no time, so he went to his uncle to learn fire style. If both of them were unavailable, he would have to make do with Kazuki-sensei. Kazuki. Of course, he also didn't miss out on the practice of physical skills. Saw. This day, Minato suddenly called the three students together. At the meeting point, Minato said, looking at the three villains, "Come to the teacher's house for lunch today. The teacher has good news and wants to share it with you." Lin was the first to respond positively. "Okay, what do you need us to prepare, Mr. Minato?" Minato waved his hand and said with a smile, "Haha, all you three need to do is show up." Yoshi. Obito thought with his goggles. Everyone knew what the good news Minato was talking about. It must be something like having a cub of his own. Kakashi raised his little hand and asked thoughtfully, "Teacher Minato, will you cook the food for lunch today, or will your wife cook the food?" Minato smiled and scratched his nose. "I came to the teacher's house for dinner last time, so I scared you. Don't worry, the teacher will come to cook at noon today." Kakashi nodded and said, "Then I have no problem." Noon. Obito, Kakashi and Lin arrived at the door of Minato's house together. Lin stepped forward and rang the doorbell. Ding dong. The door was quickly opened. It was Kushina who opened the door, holding a small yellow-furred baby in her arms. Lin. Kakashi. Advertisement. Obito. Omega. As the initiator of the matter, he really couldn't pretend to be shocked. Lin looked at the cute little baby and her heart almost melted. What a cute child. Could it be that? Kushina nodded happily. Okay. Minato's figure appeared from behind Kushina. Said while looking at the shocked Rin and Kakashi. Yes, we have a child. Several people entered the house. Lin volunteered to take the baby and started to play with it. After a while, she looked up curiously and asked, "Minato-sensei, how come we never heard you and my wife mention this matter?" Minato seemed to have already thought of his words. He said without thinking, because Kushina and I didn't think about whether to have this child, and we have been hesitating for a long time. By the time we both made up our minds, it was almost the due date. Because I'm afraid that you all will worry, I just wanted to wait until the baby is born and stabilized before I tell you." Lin nodded her head without doubting his presence. "Oh, that's it." Kakashi said nothing, but there was a flash of suspicion in his eyes. Obito said with a smile, "Congratulations, teacher and wife, what's the baby's name?" Minato said with soft eyes, "We named him Namikaze Naruto." Obito said with a smile, Oh, that's the name of the protagonist in The Legend of Strong Perseverance. It seems that the teacher and his wife have high expectations for little Naruto." Minato and Kushina looked at each other and smiled. Being a parent, they all have deep expectations for their children. Minato quickly set up a table of delicious food. A few people chatted while eating. Lin took the initiative to hold little Naruto and let Kushina eat first. Obito looked at Naruto and kept moving up and down Lin's chest. I thought to myself, this guy couldn't be some fellow countryman who traveled through time, right? The days passed. Advertisement. Obito discovers the option he originally chose. Proficient in 20 types of fire style and earth style ninjutsu. It's not as easy to accomplish as you might think. Mastery and proficiency are two different things from the perspective of the system. Unless it can be silky to a certain extent. Otherwise, the system brother will not count the progress at all. It took Obito almost a year. Only then did I receive the prompt to complete the multiple choice questions. Successful selection. Obtain reward. Blood succession limit lava style. Although the process is very difficult, the reward is completely worth it. Obito said with emotion. Lava style is the blood inheritance boundary formed by the combination of fire and earth chakra. Not only does it possess terrifying power, but it can also be used in physical arts. If only it could be like Four Tails Jinchuriki. Cover your entire body with lava to form lava-style armor. It can take into account both lethality and defense at the same time. It is not impossible to compete with Cage level. Of course, the current Obito cannot do this yet. He just got lava style. It can only be developed starting from some of the most basic ninjutsu and taijutsu applications. Although Obito has tried to avoid being seen as much as possible. Develop the application of lava style alone in a remote place. But it still cannot be hidden from the attention of some caring people. When third generation learned that Obito had mastered lava style, everyone was stunned. He once asked Obito why he was suddenly so interested in earth style. The child said with a smile, he wants to develop a blood inheritance boundary that combines fire and earth attributes. Third generation said words of encouragement on his lips, but he didn't take it seriously in his heart. There are so many top ninjas who can do so many things in their lives. Can you, a 12 or 13-year-old child, be able to study it? But this guy was actually developed. That's outrageous. No, I, Hiruzen, have reserved this child, and it won't be easy for anyone to ask for it. And at the same time, a certain old silver coin in the dark also has his eye on Obito. Danzo looked at the information in his hand and said with a sneer. No wonder Hiruzen is so obsessed with this boy. This talent is really exciting. He threw the information aside and gently rubbed his eyebrows. Advertisement. If you have such a good young talent, you should try to recruit him if you have the chance. If you can't get it, you have to find a way to destroy it quickly. After all, he is from the Uchiha clan. Once it grows up, it may pose a threat to Konoha. More than half a year later. Konoha, Obito and Lin were walking side by side on the street. Lin looked at Obito beside her and asked with her big eyes blinking. Obito-kun, why don't you join Kakashi in this Jonin selection? Others may not know, but Lin knows Obito's strength. He has every chance of becoming a Jonin. Obito said lazily. Well, because I'm not interested in Jonin, afraid of death. Lin said, oh, and then asked again. Then do you think Kakashi-kun will pass this test? Obito said, and replied uninterestedly. As for that guy, it should be fine. Lin waved her fist happily. Yeah, then Kakashi will be the first one in our class to become a Jonin. What gift should we give him when the time comes? Obito shook his head glumly. I have no idea. Rin looked at the depressed Obito. Suddenly he burst out laughing. Obito-kun, are you jealous? Obito turned his head to the side and said harshly. I don't have it. Lin turned around with a smile and moved closer to Obito. Oh, really not? Obito backed away slowly in a panic. Without paying attention, he leaned against the wall. Really not? I swear, he said quickly. Lin shook her little head, put one arm on the wall, and squeezed Obito into the corner. She leaned forward, approaching Obito, almost touching Obito's body. There was even a narrow smile on his face. But why do I feel that you are just jealous? Advertisement. Eyes facing each other. Their faces were almost touching. A breeze blew. The girl's hair brushed her face, and the fragrance of her body penetrated her nose. Obito could hear even the girl's breathing clearly. Bang 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 bang. Obito's heart began to beat rapidly. Like a sports car, the horsepower is fully charged instantly. His face turned red and he hesitated. I might be a little jealous, whispered. Lin looked like it was true and laughed again. Why, you don't think I like Kakashi, do you? Obito said nothing, but isn't it? Look on his face already gave the answer. Lin stopped her smile and sighed softly. Obito-kun, do you know? Admiration and liking are two different things to me. I admire Kakashi very much, and many girls in the class also admire him because he is excellent in all aspects. Maybe there are girls who like him because of this, but that doesn't include me. I just want to be as good as him. And I already have someone I like. Obito looked up sharply. I just felt a boom in my head. The whole person froze on the spot. Lin already has someone she likes. And it's not Kakashi. Who could it be? Advertisement. Will it be me? Then, who is that person? He couldn't help but ask. Lin said softly. The person I like is a big idiot who always makes jokes. Everyone says he is a loser, but at critical moments, he is more reliable than anyone else. No matter what he does, he will always be late, but when I feel uncomfortable, he will always appear by my side in time and try his best to make me happy. Also, he prepares gifts for me every holiday, well, although the things he sends are quite strange. But I just like this idiot, do you understand now, idiot? Obito's eyes were red, but he still couldn't believe the reality. He loves to make jokes, loves to be late, and is a big idiot. This should be me, right? He wanted to give himself a slap now. See if you are dreaming. He asked with some expectation and some fear. The person Lin Chan is talking about, is it me? Lin rolled her eyes angrily. Idiot, I've told you so much for nothing, and you still ask. If it's not you, who else could it be? It's really me. Obito's little face was quickly filled with blood, and his brain shut down again. Lin looked at Obito, who was in a daze, biting the corner of his mouth, and asked. You obviously like me, why haven't you confessed your feelings to me? Obito stammered. I thought. There were tears falling from Lin's eyes. Advertisement. Do you think, you know how long I have been waiting for you? In the end, I have to say it first. In this world where it is common to get married at the age of 15 or 16. 14 years old is indeed not too young. When Yongdame was just a little older, she took Kushina to the moon. Don't cry, Lin Chan. Obito awkwardly wiped Lin's tears. I like you, let's be together. Humph, it's not too stupid. Lin smiled again. It's like early sakura blooming, it's so beautiful. Then, I promise you. Oh, greater than omega less than, oh that's great. Obito pulled Lin into his arms and hugged the girl tightly. It's so romantic, sweet love, when will it be my turn? How can it be repaired? Even Bito is single, but I am still single. Well, with such a troublesome thing, what's there to envy? The sudden sound made Obito, who was immersed in happiness, freeze. He slowly turned his head and saw the familiar trio. Sparrow, Shikaha, Ayako, what did you get here? Lin hurriedly got out of Obito's arms and adjusted her clothes with a flushed face. Lu Yu showed a thoughtful look. Well, it probably comes from the guy the first like is a big idiot thing. Ayako shook her head and said. No, it should be earlier. Advertisement, Naganoha said while hugging Shikaha. That's pretty much it. Anyway, I heard everything I should have heard, and I also heard what I shouldn't have heard. Lu Yu nodded slightly. Well, anyway, seeing you two, you were so involved just now, we were afraid of disturbing you. So I just stayed aside and waited for you to finish before coming over to say hello. Lin covered her face with her hands and felt her face getting hot. ... This is too embarrassing. Obito is not bad. There are too many people dead in society, so there is no feeling anymore. I just feel that I was really too involved just now. There were 3 more people listening to the wall. Kakuzu didn't notice it. He waved his hand impatiently. You 3 singles, hurry up and disperse. Don't delay my romance with Lin Chan. Nagano Wave said with a smile. Ouch, let's leave first so as not to disturb you too. Lu Yu made a cut sound. You guys forget your friends because of girlfriend, then let's go. Ayako said enviously. Obito-kun, you must be nice to Sister Lin. Goodbye. The 3 of them left with incomprehensible smiles. Lin said, ouch, and punched Obito shyly. Why did you say that just now? It's so embarrassing. Obito grabbed Lin's little hand and said with a smile. What's wrong? Was what I said wrong? Advertisement. Obito and Lin were still walking side by side on the street. It's just different from before. Their fingers were clasped together, with sweet smiles on their faces. Obito looked at the smiling girl beside him. There is always an unreal feeling. Lin turned her little head and met Obito's gaze. She asked with a smile. What's wrong, Obito-kun, why do you keep looking at me? Obito squeezed Lin's little hand and said. When I think about being with you every day, I feel so happy and I can't get enough of it. Lin's little face turned red again. Asterisk omega asterisk, I hate it, Obito-kun. Lin pulled Obito and walked around in front of each small stall. Obito-kun, do you think this hairpin looks good? Obito-kun, do you think this bracelet is suitable for me? Obito-kun. Obito responded with a smile. Lin Chan is so beautiful, she goes well with anything. Then he took out his wallet and bought the small items that Lin had tried on. After a while, Obito suggested, Lin Chan, are you hungry after shopping for so long? I'll buy some dumplings and come back. Lin nodded happily. Yeah, okay, then I'll carry the things. Yoshi. Obito gave Lin the bag. Throwing his arms behind him, he quickly ran towards the dumpling shop. When I came back from buying dumplings, he was even more exaggerated, flying over eaves and walls, attracting countless gazes. somersaulting from the roof to the ground gracefully. Obito handed the packing box to Lin. Lin-chan, come on, eat it while it's hot. Lin picked up a bunch of dumplings and asked with her big eyes blinking. Obito-kun, why were you so anxious just now? What if you fall? Advertisement. Obito chuckled and scratched his head. Hey, I don't want to leave you for too long. Lin gave Obito a big eye roll. Then what will you do at night after we separate for a while? Obito said jokingly. Then tonight, I can only wash my face with tears and stay awake all night. Hollow down pointing triangle, cut. The two ate dumplings and talked while walking. Ah, Obito-kun, if I ask you the same question again, will you still be angry? Lin asked. Obito smiled and shook his head. Of course not, hee hee. Lin swallowed the dumplings in her mouth, clapped her little hands and said. Then what kind of gift do you think we should give Kakashi? Obito thought for a while and said. Give him something practical. This guy is a pragmatist and doesn't like flashy things. Lin nodded her head thoughtfully. It seems like this. Obito-kun, you seem to know Kakashi really well. Obito waved his hand and said. Haha, no, why don't we give him a first aid kit? I happen to know a pharmacy where the medicines are particularly effective. Lin's eyes lit up when she heard this. Okay, let's go. As she spoke, she took 2 steps forward. As a result, he turned around and found that Obito was still where he was. Obito-kun. Obito raised his little hand and shook it. Lin-chan, have you forgotten something? Lin, speechless and amused, turned back and held Obito's hand. Now, is this okay? Obito nodded with satisfaction. Well, let's go then. Actually, you just went in the opposite direction. The pharmacy is behind us. Holding Lin's little hand. Advertisement. Obito took her to a familiar pharmacy. There was a beautiful woman sitting in front of the counter. She crossed her legs and raised her red eyes and said. Hey, the noble Lord Chunin has condescended to come to the shop in person today. Noticing Lin's curious gaze, Obito said with a wry smile. Sister Yuji, haven't we finished this article yet? Yuji shrugged her shoulders. He glanced at Lin next to Obito and smiled meaningfully. Hey, that's good, kid. I haven't seen you for a few days, and I found such a beautiful little girlfriend. Obito said with pride and joy. That is, Lin Luoluo said generously. Hello, Yuki-san, my name is Nohara-rin, and I am Obito-kun's girlfriend. Yuji stood up and nodded slightly. Hello, I'm Yuji. What do you want to buy when you come here today? Obito and Lin looked at each other and then said. We plan to customize an emergency medical kit for our good friends, the one with the best effect. Yuji nodded and walked towards the warehouse inside the house. Okay, please wait for me for a moment. It didn't take long. She took out a small medical kit from the warehouse and placed it on the counter. The friendship price is 30,000 taels, please pay for it. So expensive, Lin couldn't help but exclaimed. Obito is used to it. You get what you pay for. Sister Yuji's items are all worth the money. He added quietly in his mind. Everyone who has used it said it was good, but the people who used it said they couldn't stand it. Lin nodded hesitantly. Okay, then each of us will pay half. Just think of this medical kit as a gift from us together. Obito naturally had no objection. Okay, Rin-chan. Advertisement. After the two paid the money together, they left with a small medical kit. Let's go, Sister Yuji. Let's go, come back when you have time. Sister Yuji, goodbye. Dinner has been arranged and gifts have been bought. It was already extremely dark. The originally lively streets became deserted. There are almost no traces of pedestrians on the road. Ah, it's time for me to go back, Obito-kun. Lin said. Obito's arms tentatively climbed up Lin's slim waist. Then shall I take you back? Rin glared at Obito. But he didn't say anything and just let Obito hug him. Obito was secretly happy. The melancholy of the impending departure was also washed away a lot. Send Lin all the way to her home. Obito then reluctantly let go of his hand. Lin-chan, you can leave this medical kit here. Then I will leave first. Lin said. After some hesitation, she stood on tiptoes again. He tapped Obito's lips lightly, and then trotted away. Only the silver bell-like laughter was left, echoing in the night. See you tomorrow, Obito-kun. See you tomorrow, Lin-chan. Obito touched the corners of his lips, feeling warm in his heart. Although it was dark night, he felt like he was bathing in the sun. This world is really beautiful. Family, love, friendship. I have them all. Obito murmured softly. No one can take this away from me. Kill whoever comes. His figure disappeared into the night. The day Kakashi became Jonin was the beginning of all tragedy. And this day is not far away. In order to prevent overturning and following the track, he needs to be prepared. Advertisement. Obito didn't go home. Instead, he went directly to the depths of the forest. Practice for another hour and then go back to sleep. Obito whispered. He stood there, his hands suddenly covered in flames. Well, I suddenly feel like Fire Fist Ace. It's a conspiracy, it's a conspiracy. In the dark night, after he practiced a set of boxing techniques, a funny idea came to his mind. If I wave my hand like this, I should be the brightest cub at night. He suddenly flew up. His feet were also wrapped in flames, and he kicked hard against the big tree next to him. All fight. Now I'm the foot artist, Blackfoot Sanji. Naturally, the abilities Obito is showing now do not come from devil fruit. It is the result of applying lava style to physical skills. But now I can only wrap my hands and feet with lava style. It's okay for attack, but it doesn't have any defensive effect. Obito put away the flames on his hands and feet and put on the shoes and socks on the side again. Then next, try that trick. Ugly mousey, lava style burning river rock technique. Obito opened his small mouth and spit out 10 small lava fireballs. Although the diameter is not large, but under the terrifying high temperature, the rock balls are extremely lethal. Obito looked at the small ball he spurted out and sighed helplessly. This is the burning river rock technique. When Four Tails Jinchuriki uses it, it turns into a river. When I use it, it's like a stream. But with the addition of these 2 lava-style moves, the ordinary Jonin now shouldn't pose much of a threat to me. After practicing lava style for a while, Obito packed up and rushed home. When walking to the door of the house, the system beeped and gave Obito a multiple-choice question. Option 1. I won't sleep if the moon doesn't sleep. I'm a bald baby. Why don't you go back to your home and continue practicing? Completion reward. Lava style comprehension +5. Option 2. What to practice? Going to bed late will damage your kidneys. Look at those dark circles under your eyes, go home and go to sleep. Completion reward. Durability +5. Advertisement. Option 3. I don't practice, I don't sleep, I stay up late to get glory. Completion reward. Random skin 1. Obito glanced at the options. I get angry when I see option 3. I don't even have a mobile phone, what an honor. Pass. The rewards for option 1 are pretty good. The reward for option 2 is also. Bah. Do I need a reward for option 2? No, I don't need to. Going to bed late hurts the kidneys. Then if I don't sleep and just stay up all night, won't that be the end of it? I choose option 1. But brother system, I was in the woods just now, and you didn't react at all. You gave me multiple choice questions as soon as I arrived at my door. You didn't mean to mess with me, did you? The system beeped. Host guessed it right, I'm messing with you. You choose whether you like it or not, whether you like it or not. Obito. Yes, I can't afford to offend you. So Obito turned back from the door of his house to the clearing in the forest. The whole person was immersed in cultivation again. Early in the morning, when Guy came to the woods and prepared to practice. Then he noticed the figure jumping up and down. He couldn't help but sigh. Before dawn, you start sweating. This is youth. Obito-kun, please take me with you, let's ignite youth together. Successful selection. Obtain reward. Lava style comprehension +5. Once the reward arrives, Obito immediately became depressed and yawned. Guy-san, I've been practicing hard all night and I can't stand it anymore. Advertisement. I'll drive a dragon's spine with you. After we finish driving, I'll go back to sleep. Although Guy felt a little regretful, he still responded. Yoshi. 2 snakes were crawling around in the forest. Half an hour later, a snake suddenly grew legs and ran away. A week later, on the path of sakura flowers with fresh grass and colorful fallen flowers, a group of teenagers were whispering and discussing something. Ah, it's such an honor and shame to be his contemporary. Well, what kind of gift do you think that guy would like? If you ask me, give him a girlfriend, so that he won't have to look cold every day. Pull him down. That guy is determined to be single for the rest of his life. How about you give me one? At this time, a figure hurried over and said with an apology. Sorry, I'm late. Obito-kun, why are you late again? Lin heard the sound and walked out of the crowd to meet Obito. Obito chuckled and scratched his head. What I don't want to think about is that there are so many old ladies on the road today. Lin smiled and tapped Obito's forehead. Okay, come on. After that, she naturally took Obito's hand, etc. There seemed to be many people around. The two looked at each other and communicated silently. Lin, should we hold hands and go there? I'm so shy. Obito, why not? Let them be envious and jealous. Lin, isn't this a bad idea? But I agree with it. Obito, ha, I didn't expect you to be such a Lin-chan, let's go. The two held hands and walked toward the crowd. Yuhi Kurenai was the first to notice this scene. Advertisement, she said with a surprised look on her face. Lin, you and Obito. When did it happen? Guy, Genma, Asuma and others heard this and looked over. Before Lin and Obito could respond, an excited voice sounded, attracting everyone's attention. I know the whole process of them being together. Everyone, listen to what I'm telling you. Everything must start from a big idiot. Veins were pulsing on Obito's forehead. Dan, Sparrow, give it to me. He flew up and kicked Naganomi directly. Nagano looked at the feet getting bigger and bigger in front of him. I feel like I can't escape. It's over, Barbie is Q. After Nagano wave was kicked away by Agio. He got up with a roar and jumped directly towards Obito. The two of them started to struggle. Lin put her little hand on her forehead and sighed helplessly. Shikaha was also used to this scene. Please ignore these two guys, let's continue the discussion. A group of teenagers discussed again. After a rough discussion, everyone went back to their respective homes to prepare gifts. Obito held Lin's little hand and walked on the way home. After pondering for a while, he finally spoke. Lin-chan, I have a hunch that the situation on the front line may change. War should not be far away from us. You must be prepared in the past few days. Lin's expression changed, and her voice trembled unconsciously. War, Obito nodded solemnly. 3 days later, Kakashi will officially assume the role of Jonin. It was also on that day. The three of them will face a battle that will completely affect their destiny. The Battle of Canopy Bridge. Advertisement. 3 days later, outside a lush forest. Minato sat on a stone, waiting for his student. He was always smiling, but he didn't smile today. Rock Shinobi and Konoha went into full-scale war, and the army pressed directly on the border of the Land of Fire. All the high-end combat forces in the village were transferred to the front line. Now we are facing the dilemma of no one available. Out of necessity, he will soon send his apprentice to the battlefield. Kakashi was the first to arrive and greeted Minato. Minato-sensei. Minato nodded slightly. Kakashi. After a while, Lin and Obito held hands and appeared in Minato's sight. Hello, Mr. Minato, Lin said with a smile. You too. Minato was stunned for a moment, then his eyes became complicated. If it had been in the past, he would have happily blessed the two of them. But now, Kakashi looked at the two people side by side with a smile on his lips. This idiot finally confessed his feelings to Lin. Wait. Kakashi's expression suddenly stiffened. If the two of them are together, then, am I the only single person left in the team? Being single is not scary, really. Kakashi has never thought about finding a girlfriend. But the scary thing is, when you are single, everyone around you has someone. What's even scarier is, your two good friends are together, and you have to be a light bulb every day. Advertisement. Kakashi's eyes widened. Why? How could this happen? How can it be repaired? Hello Minato-sensei, Kakashi. Why do you keep staring at me? Obito looked at Kakashi with some confusion. Snort. Kakashi snorted and ignored Obito. Monk Obito was confused. How did you offend this guy? No. Rin took out the small medical kit from her bag, held it in both hands and handed it to Kakashi. Kakashi-kun, this is a gift prepared by Obito and I. Congratulations on your official appointment as Jonin. Kakashi took the small box and put it in his ninja bag. Thanks, Lin. Minato also forced a smile and took out a kunai from his arms. Teacher, I'll give you this. This is a specially customized kunai. Although it's a bit heavy and not easy to use, it's easy to use once you get used to it. With that said, he threw the kunai towards Kakashi. Kakashi caught the kunai and inserted it diagonally into his waist. Thank you, Minato-sensei, Obito said, a little unhappy. Hey, you guy, why don't you thank me? Kakashi glanced at Obito and snorted again. Obito. After the team arrived, Minato set off with the three of them. The front lines are tight and there is no time to waste, he said as he walked. Konoha's combat power is seriously insufficient now. For the sake of mission efficiency, we will divide our troops into 2 groups. Kakashi serves as the captain, and the 3 of you will perform tasks as a team. Teacher, just act alone. Kakashi nodded in response. Okay, Mr. Minato, but what specific task are the 3 of us going to perform? Minato turned around and said. Don't worry, the teacher will explain it to you in detail later. Advertisement. Halfway through, the 4 of them sat down around a stone to rest. Minato spread out a map and said, the Kingdom of Earth is attacking the Grass Ninja Village, and it is only a matter of time before it invades the territory of the Kingdom of Fire. In order to prevent this from happening, you need to sneak behind the enemy and destroy the canopy bridge they use to transport supplies. Obito's heart trembled. As long as he hears the word canopy bridge, he will feel physically uncomfortable. Just like when Pang Tong heard about Luofengpo. Kakashi pondered. Does it mean cutting off the enemy's supply line? Minato nodded and said, that's right, after we reach the national border, we will carry out our missions separately. I will go directly to the front line to attack the enemy, so that I can help you lure the enemy. You just drive straight in, destroy the enemy's supply lines, and then evacuate quickly. Lin nodded solemnly. We understand, Minato-sensei. Minato looked at the 3 young faces and said seriously. You 3 must pay attention to safety and come back safely. The atmosphere was tense for a moment. After all, this kind of mission deep behind enemy lines can be said to be extremely dangerous. One mistake and the entire army could be wiped out. Obito saw this and said with a smile. Don't worry, Mr. Minato, I will definitely protect them both. Kakashi said proudly. TCH, who needs your protection? The 4 of them hit the road again. Soon, we walked into a strange forest. The trees here are extremely thick, with trunks 7 or 8 meters wide. Giant mushrooms can be found everywhere, and picking one can probably feed you for half a year. Kakashi raised his hand to signal everyone to stop. There seems to be an ambush ahead, he whispered. Minato's eyes were like lightning, and he said after sensing. Everyone, be careful. There are 20 enemies, but they should all be shadow clones. Advertisement. Kakashi's eyes sparkled with eagerness to try. I will be in charge of the attack, please help me support. Minato's brows furrowed slightly. Don't be too anxious, Kakashi, you should be responsible for the backup. Kakashi heard this and formed a seal with his hands. The violent thunder attribute chakra suddenly condensed. It was as if hundreds of thousands of birds were chirping at the same time, and dangerous arcs of electricity danced on his fingertips. Even if there are many enemies, you can defeat them with one move using this ninjutsu. It's the same as the teacher's common name, and... Minato shook his head and raised his arm to stop Kakashi. No, Kakashi. Kakashi was about to argue. A hand was placed on his shoulder. Captain Kakashi, just listen to Minato-sensei. There are many ways to deal with this guy, but your ninjutsu has not been perfected yet, so there is no need to take this risk. Let's work out another strategy, I can help too. Kakashi raised his head and met Obito's eyes. After a moment of silence, the thunder in his hand slowly disappeared. After thinking about it seriously, he said, Obito and I are responsible for the strong attack, Lin, you are responsible for the long-range containment. Minato-sensei, please act as backup. If we are suppressed, please provide quick support. Minato nodded happily. Good. In his opinion, the most important thing among ninjas is teamwork. And my 3 students have done this very well. Yoshi, Yiku swish. Obito and Kakashi suddenly jumped out of their hiding places. Shadow clone technique. The two of them formed a seal with their hands at the same time and instantly transformed into 6 paths. In the blink of an eye, a distance of more than 10 meters was crossed. Iwagakure's ninja leech was shocked when he saw the 2 attacking people. 2 brats with barely even hair, can even match Jonin's speed. What a joke. Is Konoha so awesome? Advertisement. The demon leech's body quietly retreated. A dozen shadow clones were divided into 3 groups and met the 2 attacking men. Minato hiding in the dark. I took a few glances at the trajectory of shadow clone. The location of his body was roughly determined. He should be hiding behind that tree. Are you going to take action? Minato pondered. Forget it, give the children a chance. If they can't solve it, they can take action and kill this guy instantly. Kakashi and Obito both have the strength of Jonin. It's easy to deal with a Jonin's shadow clone. Fire style impatience claw red technique. Swordsmanship shadow dance. Flames soared into the sky, and the sword was piercingly bright. The 2 of them scattered the leech's shadow clone one by one. The magic leech looked frightened. These 2 brats actually have the fighting power of Jonin. Seeing the shadow clone being defeated one by one, the magic leech gritted its teeth. Under the attack of these 2 people, he would definitely not be able to escape. It's better to take the initiative and get rid of an imp first. Think of this. He landed quietly on the ground. The whole person retreated into the earth and disappeared. Obito suddenly looked somewhere, with 2 tomo flowing in his eyes. The corners of his mouth quirked up slightly. I was just looking for you, but I delivered it to you by myself. Next moment, a figure emerged from the ground and slashed at Obito with a sharp knife. However, after the knife fell, Obito's figure turned into smoke and disappeared instantly. Not good. A life and death crisis emerged in my mind. Advertisement. The devil leech turned his head away. I saw the flames all over the sky coming towards me. His legs exerted force and his body retreated violently. But suddenly it stopped in place. His pupils constricted. He saw the tip of a knife emerging from his chest. I'm not willing to die in the hands of 2 brats. Demon leech murmured in a low voice. Kakashi pulled out the knife coldly. The demon leech's body fell to the ground weakly. When Obito saw this, he muttered unhappily. Kakashi, you are trying to steal my head. Great fireball technique, it really can't hit anyone. Kakashi glanced at Obito. Too lazy to pay attention to him, he wiped the white fang on his own. See it all over. Minato walked over with Lin and said with a smile. You 2 performed very well, even beyond the teacher's expectations. Just now, Kakashi and Obito cooperated very well. The battle was resolved concisely and efficiently, without the need for him or Lin to take action at all. Immediately, Minato said seriously. But the enemy who was alone just now probably just happened to come out to patrol alone. What you face next is probably a full rock shinobi team. So everyone must be careful and don't be careless. All 3 of them nodded with serious expressions. We understand, Minato-sensei. The 4 of them hit the road again. When walking to a bamboo forest, Minato paused. The teacher can only send you here, and the rest is up to you. Are we going to separate? The 3 of them looked at each other and saw the tension in each other's eyes. Minato raised his hand and waved. Then let's go. Minato's figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. Advertisement. Kakashi and others also got into the bamboo forest. Start moving deeper towards the rock shinobi front. Careful, Kakashi suddenly reminded him. I saw a pit trap in front of a few people. It is covered with sharp bamboo thorns. Lin said thoughtfully. It seems that we should have entered the patrol range of a rock shinobi team. Obito nodded, squeezed Lin's little hand and said. Yes, the enemy may appear at any time. Lin-chan, you must follow me and Kakashi closely, and don't get too far away. Lin said with her big eyes blinking. I understand, Obito-kun. Cuff. Kakashi turned away with a depressed look. Spreading dog food in front of me, is this really okay? Kakashi, I have a hunch. Obito reminded. We are likely to encounter enemies soon, so be careful. Kakashi raised his eyebrows and nodded slightly. Good, comma. The 3 of them passed through the bamboo forest and came to a stream. Right here, seeing the familiar scene, Obito felt a chill in his heart. His muscles were all tense, and he stood by Lin's side calmly. If nothing unexpected happens, the two Jonin from Iwagakure are hiding somewhere around here. At this moment, they are looking at the three of them with eager eyes. And his guess was indeed correct. Among the jagged rocks, two ninjas were whispering to each other. Jonin Flames with afro hair said, "That devil leech guy went to do some reconnaissance, but he never came back. Could it be that he was killed by these three brats?" Advertisement. Beside him was Jonin, who was wearing a blue turban and a fleshy face. "Oi," she said with a ferocious smile. "Then go catch a kid and come over and ask. Ninja technique. Camouflage hidden." He raised his hand to make a seal. "Make your body transparent and blend in with the surrounding environment." In the stream, Obito seems to be flowing freely, but in fact he is paying careful attention to his surroundings. At this time, the system beeped and gave a multiple-choice question. Option 1. Join forces with teammates to kill Iwagakure Jonin Firelight and Dashi. Completion reward. 0.3 card chakra. Option 2. Join forces with teammates to repel the Iwagakure Jonin Fire and Big Rocks. Completion reward. 0.2 card chakra. Option 3. Sound the warning and lead your teammates to quickly evacuate away from danger. Completion reward. 0.1 card chakra. Obito glanced at the options. Without much hesitation, I chose option 1. Fight off these two ninjas, or evacuate directly. This will leave opportunities for the other party to pass on information. This led to the failure of this mission. That being the case, we might as well kill these two people without stopping. Complete the raid mission and get the highest reward at the same time. Obito pulled down his goggles. Sha Lingen. Blood dyed his eyes red, and the Magatama slowly rotated. Draw your sword and kill. Obito turned around suddenly, wielding the knife with Shadow Show in his hand. Saw. With a crisp metallic sound, the sharp blade suddenly came out of its sheath. Under the reflection of the sun, it shines with a strange light. Dashi's figure slowly emerged, his face full of shock. "You, how could you see me? What are those eyes?" Blood spurted from his neck. He fell to the ground with a plop, and turned into a cold corpse. Chapter 61. Everything happened too fast. When the boulder fell to the ground, Kakashi and Lin finally reacted and looked behind them in horror. "Obito, what's going on?" Lin exclaimed. "There are enemies." Kakashi quickly pulled out the White Fang and looked around. Actually, it's not just them. A fire lurking in the dark. Seeing this scene, his expression couldn't help but change. What a joke. After just one encounter, Dashi was defeated by a kid. Retreat. The information here must be passed back as soon as possible. We must not allow a few brats with terrifying strength to do whatever they want behind the battle lines. Huo Guang's eyes stared straight ahead. Under the cover of escape technique, he slowly retreated. But at this moment, the kid who killed Dashi suddenly looked towards him. A pair of scarlet eyes locked onto him. Found. Huo Guang's heart sank. He no longer hides his figure and launches attacks quickly. Earth-style rock break gun. The rocks behind him levitated. It turned into sharp stone spears and shot towards the three people. Obito growled. "Kakashi, cover me." Kakashi and he are connected. She stood in front of him in an instant and slammed her hands on the ground. Earth-style wall. The rising earth wall blocked the attack of the stone spears. And in just this moment, Obito also completed the seal. Earth-style Tulan gun. More than a dozen stone spears that are half a meter thick suddenly thrust out from the front of the earth current wall. Unable to dodge the fire, his side was grazed by a stone spear, and he let out a muffled groan. "You brat." He gritted his teeth and stumbled back, reaching out to take out the flare in his arms. The earth current wall lost the support of chakra and instantly dissolved and disappeared. Vision became clear again. Obito and Kakashi also saw Huo Guang's actions at this time. "No, he wants to send a signal, stop him quickly," Obito said anxiously. They were now deep behind enemy lines. If the location is exposed, the consequences will be disastrous. There is no need for Obito to remind me. Kakashi had already rushed out, swinging his knife towards the fire not far away. Obito's hands flew up. He completed the seal in 1 second and used his strongest ninjutsu. Lava-style scorched river rock technique. Lava fireballs shot out one after another. Covers the range where firelight may be avoided. The fire showed injuries and he hurriedly avoided. But he was still scratched by Kakashi's knife. I didn't expect that my Huogwang would be driven to the point of despair by two broads. After Kakashi succeeded with his sword, he briefly landed not far away. He stared at the fire with eager eyes, ready to draw his sword again at any time. And the lava fireball spit out by Obito even reached the front of the fire. I could already feel the heat waves coming from the fire. The lava fireball will fall instantly. The boy next to him will also arrive suddenly. In this brief moment, Huogwang's heartbeat changed rapidly. He now has two options. Or keep firing flares. Then he died under the invasion of lava fireballs. Or give up firing flares temporarily and avoid the lava fireballs in the sky. But if you do this, it's just delaying his own death. There is a high probability that he will die in the hands of these two people in the end. And if you are entangled by the knife-wielding kid, it is even more impossible to inform the brothers in the rear about the situation here. Just think of this. Huogwang sighed and fired a flare behind him. Boom. The next moment, he was instantly overwhelmed by the falling rocks. But there was a relieved smile on the corner of his mouth. Call out. The signal flare rose into the air and emitted a dazzling light. However, the hearts of the young people sank to the bottom. This guy would rather die than warn his companions. Obito looked at the fire buried under the rocks with a slightly complicated look in his eyes. The fate of the two of them seemed to have been reversed at this moment. Successful selection. Get reward. 0.3 card chakra. The chakra reward of 0.3 cards is credited to your account. However, Obito was not happy at all. They are about to face a murderous opportunity that is more terrifying than the original plot. There may be 10 or even hundreds of teams chasing them. Retreat, retreat quickly, abandon the mission. Kakashi shouted. The three of them turned around and got into the bamboo forest before, and quickly returned the same way. There was no need to think about the mission at all right now. It's good to be alive. Swish swish, I don't know if it's an illusion. In the forest behind the three people, there seemed to be a rushing sound. And getting closer and closer to several people. The three of them were startled and quickened their pace again. But it didn't take long. The bamboo forest in front of a few people. Suddenly there was a sound of shishisuosuo. Obito screamed strangely. Barbie is Q. There is an ambush in front, and there are pursuers behind. This is simply an unsolvable killing situation. Lin held the kunai in her hand tightly, her knuckles turning white. Obito protected her behind him and looked ahead warily. Kakashi quietly released the shadow clone and moved forward. However, when the other party showed up, both sides were shocked when they saw each other's faces. How could it be you? Why are you here? The people who suddenly appeared were Shikaha, Ayako and Bo. Seeing Obito, Kakashi and Lin, Shikaha and others were also surprised. Kakashi was the first to react and urged urgently. This is not the place to talk. Let's talk while we retreat. Everyone knew that the situation was critical and fled away quickly. Obito ran while forming seals with his hands. Shadow clone technique. A figure appeared next to him and said with deep affection in his eyes. Forgive me, Obito, this is the last time. Having said that, Shadow clone stayed where it was. Although the situation was not good, everyone looked at Obito with some curiosity. Lin asked directly, Obito-kun, what are you? Obito explained, oh, I have a lot of chakra. Leave a shadow clone to add some obstacles to those chasing us behind us. Everyone was speechless. We understand what you are saying. We want to know why your shadow clone adds drama to yourself. Obito asked, looking at Shikaha next to him. By the way, why are you guys here? Shikaha said with a sigh. Before the teacher went to the front line, he said that Iwagakure's main combat power is all on the front battlefield, and the rear must be as short of manpower as Konoha. So we sent a few of us to infiltrate and carry out reconnaissance and intelligence missions near the enemy's supply lines. After you find out the details of Rock Shinobi, bring the information here back to the village and let Jonin who stays behind analyze it to see if there are any opportunities. Obito nodded suddenly. Then our teacher really thought of it together. Ayako asked in surprise. Did Minato-senpai also send you here? Lin shook her head and said. We are not performing a reconnaissance mission, but a raid mission to destroy the canopy bridge. Good guy. Shikaha and his friends were stunned. They originally thought it was brave enough for me and others to conduct reconnaissance deep behind enemy lines. Unexpectedly, the team came directly to steal the house. In one word, awesome. Kakashi added, we just faced off against 2 rock shinobi Jonin. When we were killing each other by force, they accidentally sent a signal. You must have seen the flare, so you came closer, right? Naganoha nodded and said, we happened to be nearby. After seeing the flare, we thought something might have happened here. So I planned to come closer and explore the situation from a distance, but I saw a few of you. Etc. He suddenly said with wide eyes. You killed 2 Jonin. Obito nodded nervously, raised his hand and gestured. Aang, just raise the knife and drop it, one at a time. Had the second guy not been far away, he wouldn't have had a chance to send the signal. Naganomi said sourly. TCH, I don't believe it. Obito said with a mean smile. Actually, there are more than 2. We even killed 1 before. Naganomi covered her ears. Don't listen, you fool is chanting sutras. The shadow clone who stayed behind formed a seal with his hands. Recalling a certain girl whom I had downloaded, I skillfully used seduction techniques. It really is more comfortable like this. After she stopped in place for a while, she continued to run forward. In the bamboo forest, a rock shinobi team followed the trail with solemn expressions. Huo Guang and the others are so strong, how could they be eliminated so quickly? They are the team closest to Huo Guang and others. From the time they saw the flare to the time they rushed to the scene. It's no more than a cup of tea. But just for a moment. Those who killed Huo Guang and the others had disappeared without a trace. What does this mean? Explain the fire and boulders. Almost in the same meeting, he was solved by the other party. The sentient ninja in the team said. And Yi, there seems to be movement ahead. We found a target. And Yi's expression brightened. Finally found them, chase them. The 3 of them speeded up again and surrounded the man in front. After closing the distance, the 3 of them also saw clearly the appearance of the person in front of them. An chuckled and whispered. She is actually a kunoichi with a good figure. Let me capture her and torture her. And San quickly surpassed him, patted his chest and said. It's better to let the younger brother do this kind of hard work. Maybe this woman is very dangerous. Don't hurt the elder brother. Cut. An curled his lips in displeasure. What danger could there be in the 3 of them dealing with a lonely little lady? If you want to eat first, just say so. He and Yi surrounded them, with the woman Vice Admiral and Yi caught in the middle. The secret 3 in front raised their hands to form a seal. Ninja technique. Camouflage hidden. His body became transparent. He escaped into the earth and stalked toward the woman. The woman seemed to have been abandoned by her companions, and fled forward in panic. He didn't even notice the transparent figure emerging behind him. When Ansan saw this, he smiled impatiently. If the other party is a man, he would cut off the other person's limbs in an instant and then take them back for questioning. But if the target is a beautiful woman like this, naturally, you have to use a gentler approach. After asking for information like this, their team can also bring women with them to play games and so on. Anzo pulled out a kunai. He suddenly leaned forward and pulled the woman in front of him into his arms. One of his hands wrapped around the woman's soft part. The other hand held up the kunai and placed it on the woman's fair neck. Hey, beauty, don't resist, or I'll wipe your neck. The woman's body stiffened. Trying to look horrified, he froze in place. And San was very satisfied with the woman's performance and continued. Be obedient and surrender your companions. Not only will I not kill you, I will also take my brothers and take good care of you. What do you think, little beauty? Hey hey hey. The woman's little face turned redder and redder, and she said softly. I hate it, you are so shy when you do this, so shy. I'm about to explode. And San was stunned. So shy that you're going to explode. What the hell kind of description is this? The next moment, he knew. The woman was not describing, but stating a fact. Boom, there was a loud bang. The woman in Ansan's arms actually exploded. Copy. Ansan was directly thrown away by the terrifying impact. Ansan, are you okay? And Yi and Anur hurriedly approached. Neither of them understood it. How could such a good person like him suddenly explode? Shadow clone. But Shadow clone won't explode either. But I didn't see the detonating talisman either. That's so evil. Dark 3 is lying on the ground. Even though my whole body was burning with pain. But he still struggled to raise his arm and probe towards the key point. Call. He let out a sigh. Fortunately, my little brother is still here. Bridge bean sack. After carefully pulling it, he was stunned. Empty. He has become a polished commander. Ah. And Sans wails echoed through the sky. It startled countless birds. I'm going to kill you. Seeing and San in agony. An swallowed unconsciously. If it was me who stepped forward just now. Hiss. Good brother, your good big brother will be remembered forever. After hearing the explosion behind me. Shadow Clone's memories are also synchronized. Obito's expression changed. Everyone, speed up, the other party is not far away from us. Lu Yu's eyes lit up. Obito, did you bring the detonator? How many more are there? We can set up a few traps along the way. Obito scratched his head and said. I didn't bring the detonator. Lu Yu was stunned when he heard this. I didn't bring the detonating talisman, so the explosion just now was caused by the other party. Obito shook his head and said. No, it was my shadow clone that exploded. Maybe, I was too shy. Lu Yu, why is your shadow clone shy? Wrong. Why did your shadow clone explode? The 6 of them were already moving at full speed. But the team chasing behind them, still slowly getting closer to them. Although the number of people left behind by Rock Shinobi is small. But that is also relative to the frontal battlefield. At this moment, behind the 6 people, there were a dozen teams following their tracks to outflank them. These Rock Shinobi elites locked down the whereabouts of several people without much effort. 6 people were galloping. The ground beneath my feet suddenly shook. Kakashi's color changed. This is Earth-style splitting Earth Palm. 3 Rock Shinobi teams not far away took action at the same time. Hit this earth-shattering blow. Boom 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 boom. In a huge roar, the ground beneath their feet suddenly collapsed. Sections of it cracked open, forming ravines like natural chasms. Not only that, terrifying chakra shock, it even erupted instantly from below, coming towards you like real substance. Dusty. The 6 people's feet were in the air, and they were free-falling towards the ground. Everyone, be careful. Kakashi had quick eyes and quick hands and grabbed Ayako beside him. The toes touched the broken wall, and Ayako escaped from the collapsed ground. Obito hangs in the chasm. He hugged Lin next to him and pushed her up. At this time, Shikaha's anxious voice sounded. Obito, come help me. Obito turned his head when he heard the sound. I saw Lu Yu's feet standing on the cliff. His hands were in hand seals, and his little face was red from suppressing it. Shikabane's shadow is holding the unconscious Naganomi. Control Nagano wave to make a grabbing motion and hang on a raised rock wall. Turn out to be, just now, the unlucky guy Nagano Ha was right at the center of the chakra's impact. I was stunned on the spot and my head was buzzing. Chakra cannot be condensed at all. If not at the critical moment. Shikaha held him with his shadow. It is estimated that he will have to reopen immediately. Wait for me. Obito dispersed the chakra on the soles of his feet. His legs suddenly exerted force and he jumped towards Nagano wave. 2 seconds later, he steadied himself on the broken wall next to Nagano Ha. Then he picked him up in his hands. Let go, Shikaha, Obito shouted. Hearing this, Shikayu released the shadow imitation technique and began to run upward. Obito grabbed Naganoha and ran for 2 steps. He glanced at the distance to the ground and muttered softly. Well, it should be about right, let's go. He directly used his waist and hips to throw Naganoha upwards. The cold wind blew, and Nagano wave woke up instantly and staggered to the ground. Lin helped Naganoha, Obito said anxiously as he looked at the ground. Obito-kun, come up quickly. Obito was stunned at first. Then he looked up with piercing eyes and yelled hysterically. Lin-chan, get out of here. From the moment the earth begins to crack, to Obito rescuing Naganomi. It only took about 10 seconds before and after. However, it only lasted for 10 seconds. It's enough for the 3 Rock Shinobi teams just now. He closed the distance with Kakashi and others and launched a new round of attacks. As a ninja who kills without blinking an eye, they would not be kind enough to give their enemies a chance to breathe. Take advantage of his illness and kill him. Earth-style funeral gun formation. 9 people activated their ninjutsu at the same time. Densely packed sharp stone spears. It shot out from all directions, pointing directly at Kakashi and others. Oops. Kakashi's expression changed drastically, and he clapped his hands on the ground to hold up the earth flow wall. However, the wall rose in an emergency. But he could only protect Ayako beside him. Lu Yu jumped up and hid behind the earth wall. In the process, he tried to hold up Shadow Escape, protecting Rin and Naganoha, who were a little far away. But after consuming too much, he felt a little powerless. The shadow tentacles stretched out tremblingly, not as fast as a turtle could crawl. And the next second, the stone gun had already arrived in front of several people. Stab it! The sound of stone spears piercing flesh was heard. Warm liquid dripped on Obito's face. He caught Lin, who fell, and his whole body fell into a sluggish state. Lin-chan. Tears fell from Obito's eyes. He felt that his heartbeat had stopped for a moment. He thought he would lose Lin. Lin's eyes were also full of tears, and she choked and said, "I'm fine, Obito-kun, but Boda turned out to be." At the moment when the stone gun struck, Bo pushed Lin into the crack. However, he was unable to dodge and was hit by the stone spear. Obito's heart sank when he heard this, and he warned the girl in his arms. "Hold me." Lin huddled in Obito's arms and nodded her head heavily. Obito jumped up with Lin in his arms and appeared on the surface. Swish swish. A dozen shurikens flew towards me. Obito ducked and dodged the incoming shuriken. Then he tapped his toes. His figure kept flashing as he ran towards Kakashi and the others. Earth-style stone spear technique. Earth-style wall. Because of the lessons learned by Huogwang and others. At this time Iwagakure's ninja. Without knowing the details of several people, they did not choose to attack closely. He just continued to release ninjutsu from a distance, suppressing several people and unable to leave. This is their home court, so there is no need to worry. Delaying it will only be more beneficial to them. Obito, come here. Under the guidance of Kakashi et al., Obito successfully avoided many attacks and joined several people. He placed Lin next to Kakashi, taking advantage of the brief ceasefire between the two sides. His eyes looked at Naganoha, who was lying in a pool of blood not far away. Naganoha's body was pierced by 4 or 5 stone spears. At this time, he was struggling to raise his head and look this way. "Sparrow, you." Obito looked at Naganoha, who was furious. "I just felt like the blood all over my body was boiling." In my mind, the invisible shackles began to shake again. Obito can even hear a crash sound. Naganomi sees Obito. He grinned, as if he wanted to say something. But his lung lobe had already been pierced. No sound could be made at all. Obito looked at his lips and read his words. "I've told you. How many times, that my uncle is not called Sparrow. Also, don't feel sorry for me. I hate being in debt to others. You saved my life. I will pay you back." Before Obito could finish reading Bo's words, the enemy attacked again. The 5 people had no choice but to move their positions and lost sight of Naganoha. Tears flowed from Obito's eyes. Why am I heartbroken over this annoying guy? Boom. The shackles that restricted him in his mind were instantly broken. Obito growled, "Sparrow, I insist on what you owe me. You are not allowed to die." Shikaha grabbed Obito. "Obito, don't be impulsive. The reason why the other party didn't kill Bo was to lure you and me over. Believe me, I'm very sad that Bo has become like this, but Bo can't be saved." Obito turned his head and stared at Shikaha, and said in a cold tone, "If I can't save them, then I will kill all these people and avenge the Sparrow." Lu Yu couldn't help but be startled, and slowly let go of his hand. I saw Obito's eyes were scarlet red, and there were 3 tomo flowing in them. Kakashi frowned slightly. "Obito, now is not the time to be willful." Even though Obito was in grief, he opened 3 tomo Sharingan. But against the 3 rock shinobi teams, they still had no chance of winning. Lin was beside Obito, a little worried about his condition at this time. "Obito-kun." Obito looked directly into everyone's eyes and said, "Everyone, listen to me, I have not been dazzled by hatred. On the contrary, I am very rational now. These Iwagakure guys are clearly stalling for time, waiting for other teams to arrive. If we can't break out as soon as possible, I'm afraid we will be left here forever. After Lu Yu thought for a while, he said with a solemn expression. Obito-kun is right, we must take the initiative to break out. Ayako asked timidly, but the opponent has a numerical advantage and is stronger than us. How should we break through? Obito took off his goggles and threw them aside. I will attack the opponent in a moment to attract their attention, and you can take the opportunity to retreat. Kakashi's brows furrowed again, but they soon calmed down. Okay, I'll go with you. Obito shook his head and said. No, you are responsible for protecting Lin and the others. There will definitely be a team that abandons me in a while and turns to chase you. Only you can protect everyone. Kakashi was about to open his mouth to say something. But, Obito said impatiently, don't do this to mother-in-law and mother-in-law. If we delay any longer, none of us will be able to leave. I have a trump card in my hand. It's not that easy to die. Trust me. Lin looked at Obito with tearful eyes. Obito-kun. After Obito finished killing Kakashi, he forced a smile towards Lin. Lin-chan, we'll meet on the other side. I'll take Bo back with me. Immediately, he looked at Kakashi and said, you must protect everyone, otherwise I will never forgive you. This was the first time for Kakashi to see such a serious Obito. After hesitating for a moment, he nodded silently. Obito nodded slightly and pulled out his short sword. Everyone, get ready. In 1 minute, we will act at the same time. Say it. Obito looked at the rock shinobi ninjas in the distance. He took a deep breath and said silently in his mind. System, use Kamui Limited card. Kamui Limited card. When you open 3 Tomo Sharingan, Kamui Mangekyo Sharingan is automatically activated. Reminder. Are you sure to use it? Yes. Obito felt a warm current entering his eyes. Next moment, the 3 black magatama in the blood instantly shattered. Bred with abundant energy, it turned into a black dart. Kamui Mangekyo Sharingan. An inexplicable realization came to my mind. Obito mastered the use of Kamui instantly. What a powerful ability. No wonder Kishimoto wanted to take apart these eyes. The double Kamui is just too pervert. Obito carried the short sword and walked out of the hiding place. Then he started running slowly, rushing towards the rock shinobi people on the opposite side. Several rock shinobi ninjas were talking about it. He still has the will to fight under such circumstances. He is indeed a guy who has the courage to sneak into our rear. That's right, although he is an enemy, this kid is really good. Obito heard their conversation and smiled evilly. Young master, I am full of courage, okay. It doesn't matter whether you are greedy or crying about Go-Jien. Not only do I have the will to fight, I want to kill you all. Naganoha's consciousness had begun to drift. He vaguely saw Obito rushing towards him. I couldn't help but curse in my heart. This idiot. Fool. Crane tail. Don't you know that I am a bait left intentionally by the enemy? Forget it. He was going to die soon, so there was no point in thinking about it. But, I really didn't expect this guy to stand up for himself. Memories from the past began to emerge one by one. He seemed to be a child again. A childish voice came to my ears. Hello, my name is Bito, and we will be roommates from now on. Hello, my name is Naganomi. He was still an introverted boy at that time, and Obito was not the mean-spirited person he is now. Naganomi closed his eyes, with a slight smile on his lips. It's not so bad to meet you. Ah! Obito roared angrily. In his sight, the last trace of chakra in Naganoha's body completely dissipated. The moment Obito rushed out, Lu Yu and others behind him also ran out of the place and quickly fled in the opposite direction. The rock shinobi laughed playfully. Hey, why did this kid take the initiative to die? It turns out he was trying to create opportunities for his companions. Tisk tisk, that's a good idea. It's a pity that you can't even delay it for half a minute. Stop talking nonsense, deal with this kid quickly, don't let the other kids escape. 9 rock shinobi ninjas swarmed towards Obito. 4 Jonin, 5 special Jonin. This lineup is enough to kill the kid in front of you in seconds. Not to mention that there were 7 or 8 teams coming quickly behind them. With such a luxurious lineup on your side, how can your opponent make a comeback? What do they have to lose? That's it. Ding. A familiar sound came from Obito's mind. So tired. A screen of light suddenly appeared in front of his eyes, filling Obito's vision. He almost fell over. Option 1. Kill 10 Iwagakure ninjas. Completion reward. 0.1 card chakra. Option 2. Kill 20 Iwagakure ninjas. Completion reward. 0.2 card chakra. Option 3. Kill 30 Iwagakure ninjas. Completion reward. 0.3 card chakra. Obito glanced at the options with wide eyes and knew it in his mind. Now that the system has given the option, this means that there are at least 7 or 8 teams of rock shinobi ninjas on their way. He used his consciousness to click on option 3. Today, have a great time hunting. A ninja from Iwagakure saw Obito in a daze. He sneered, stepped forward and stabbed out. You kid, you dare to lose your focus when fighting me. Who gave you the courage? But the next moment, his smile froze on his face. The little ghost in front of him seemed to have no entity. He brought the knife with him and passed directly through the opponent's body. Nani, just when he was shocked, a short sword stabbed him in the chest. Ho, ho, Obito pulled out the short sword and kicked the guy in front of him to the ground. 1. When everyone in Rock Shinobi saw this strange scene, they stopped abruptly. Someone asked in a low voice, "What happened just now?" Someone said with an ugly expression, "I don't know. This kid is too evil. Please be careful." Obito didn't intend to give them time to react. Before Iwagakure's support arrives, kill these people in front of you first. A rock shinobi ninja, seeing Obito rushing towards him, he gritted his teeth and swung his sword to meet him. Lousy doesn't believe it. Can you keep using that trick just now? In the world of Hokage, the more bizarre the ability, the more restrictions there are on its use. Either you have to pay some price, or the cooldown time is long. The abilities of this kid Hollow's body. It will definitely not be used a few times in a short period of time. With this thought in mind, the rock shinobi ninja immediately stopped panicking. Shine, he slashed at Obito. The knife in his hand indeed passed through Obito's body. But he had already been mentally prepared. Therefore, he did not lose his focus, but he did not panic. After one hit failed, he quickly stepped back, preparing to avoid the opponent's attack. But at this moment, the space around him was instantly distorted. His whole body was uncontrollably frozen in place. He could only watch the opponent helplessly as he stabbed the short sword into his chest. 2. Another body was left behind, Obito reported calmly. Hiss. Everyone in Iwagakure gasped. It's even more evil. In their view, just now, my colleague stood motionless as if possessed by an evil spirit. Obito looked at the cowering rock shinobi. Some of them couldn't control themselves and started laughing like crazy. Ha 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 ha, if you don't come to kill me, then I will kill you. I want you to be buried with that annoying guy. Say it. He raised the knife in his hand and rushed toward everyone. The remaining 7 people looked at each other and instantly understood each other's thoughts. Go together. If they don't deal with this guy in front of them, they may really die here. A rock shinobi ninja caught Obito's gaze during the charge. 3. Bang. The next second, his head was crushed by the twisted space. Red, white, yellow, green, green. Oh, it turns out that this brother is wearing a green turban. Red, white, yellow, and green sprayed on the faces of people around him. The man subconsciously licked it and almost spit it out. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. What is going on? What kind of ability is this? Everyone looked at the indifferent young man and felt a chill in their hearts. No entity, charming mind, seeking life from afar. Is this guy an evil spirit crawling out of hell? The living lives in his mouth are just cold numbers. The other party looked at them with indifferent eyes, as if they were looking at dead people. Are you a human being? Someone couldn't help but ask. How dare you scold me? Obito's eyes widened. Bang, the opponent's head exploded instantly. Not only did Obito not feel sick, he even wanted to eat watermelon. Looking at the panicked people, Obito curled his lips. 4. What a boring battle. At present, the combat power of the Hokage world has not collapsed, and the network environment is still relatively good. Unlike more than 10 years later, cage levels are everywhere on the floor and hung on the walls as many as dogs. There are also gods and aliens flying around. Current stage. His Mangekyo Sharingan is the best cheat ever. Dealing with a group of ordinary ninjas was really a bit of a bully. Thinking of this, he sighed quietly. If only I could master this powerful power earlier. That guy Naganoha doesn't know how to. Obito took Naganoha on the ground into his Kamui space. Sparrow, when you can cheat later, I will resurrect you and Uncle Sakumo together. It just so happens that Uncle Shuamao has been wanting to talk to you. If you have any objections to him then, feel free to complain. He tried to use bad words to ease his inner sadness. But the effect doesn't seem to be good. Someone may ask. Why didn't Obito just use Kamui and run away with everyone? In fact, he had this idea just now. Once Kamui is opened, no one will fall in love with it. But this way, his ability cannot be concealed. And this will interrupt many of his plans. What's more, if you were informed by a certain old man named Shimura and Danzo, who is 55 years old this year. He has such great abilities. It is estimated that the man immediately began to think about how to catch his eyeballs. Anyway, as long as you are here, you can attract enough firepower. There shouldn't be any danger on Kakashi's side. Furthermore, I have to stay and avenge that guy Sparrow. Obito shook his head. Dispelling the thoughts in his mind, he rushed out again with a wild laugh. Ha 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 ha. He swung the short sword to the side and blocked a rock shinobi ninja. Then his hands were wrapped in flames, and one claw pierced the heart of another rock shinobi ninja. 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. He was like a wolf among sheep, resolving the battle like a wolf among sheep. Number. Calling it a battle may not be appropriate. This was just a one-sided massacre. Obito picked up his short sword from the ground and looked towards the bamboo forest beside him. I saw no less than 10 rock shinobi teams, surrounded from a distance. She looked at him with both astonishment and vigilance. This kid took care of 3 of our teams by himself. I thought there was no one left in Konoha, but I didn't expect that a kid would be brought out with such terrifying fighting power. He doesn't look older than my son. He should be like Konoha Lang when he gives birth to a son. What makes the rock shinobi ninjas even more speechless is that the Konoha boy saw so many of them. He didn't panic at all, and was even arranging his clothes slowly. Several captains whispered, "He won't be here alone, there must be teammates nearby. Let's split into 2 and fight quickly." One of the captains shook his head. "I don't think it's appropriate. This kid's strength is amazing. To be on the safe side, it's better to deal with him with all your strength. Separate 2 teams to pursue possible enemies and ensure that no one disturbs my rear." Another captain echoed, "Yes, kill this genius in the cradle as soon as possible. His death will be Konoha's biggest loss. That's it. 2 teams will go after his teammates, and the rest of the team will go together. After dealing with this brat, quickly return to support the frontal battlefield." Several people quickly made up their minds. The rock shinobi ninjas began to move. The 6 of them crossed Obito and sped off into the distance. Obito watched this scene silently. If it's just 2 teams, Kakashi's side should be fine. Are there still 10 teams left? They really look up to me. Then just stay here. Obito clenched the short sword in his hand and charged towards the 30 people. Those who didn't know, thought he was the one who surrounded the other side. The captain reminded loudly, "Be careful, come together, don't underestimate the enemy. There are a lot of people here at Rock Shinobi. It's not easy to use area killing ninjutsu, otherwise it's easy to hurt your own people." Obito easily dodged several single target ninjutsu. Soon he arrived in front of several rock shinobi ninjas. Shine. A full 4 or 5 rock shinobi ninjas drew their swords at the same time. The next second, something shocking happened to them. Their knives penetrated the boy's body. Some even plunged into their colleagues on the opposite side. While several people were in a daze, Obito seized the opportunity, jumped up, and spat out a mouthful of burnt phlegm. Lava-style soup treasure. Hot lava poured down from several people's heads. The terrifying high temperature instantly incinerated several people. One captain's pupils suddenly shrank and he exclaimed, "Body hollow, blood successor limit. Everyone, please keep your distance from him." Obito teased with a cold tone. "How do you distance yourself from me?" Obito floats around like a ghost. The people of Rock Shinobi can't run away, and they can't be hit. They fell down one after another like straw. Several captains were filled with jealousy. They feel that they already value each other enough by waiting for them. But who would have thought 30 elite ninjas would be chased and killed by a teenager? Are you sure we didn't get a counter script? Send the signal quickly, a captain shouted. A few seconds later, a dazzling signal flare lit up half the sky. Obito was still killing people in a muffled voice without any reaction at all. First, he couldn't reach the guy who sent the flare just now. Secondly, the greater the noise on his side, the safer Kakashi and the others will be. Just kill and that's it. Have fun hunting. Behind Rock Shinobi. Many people showed blank expressions after seeing the flares above their heads. Didn't we go to more than a dozen teams and still haven't solved the other party? That's right. It is said that the back of Konoha is empty and it is impossible for there to be troops to launch a surprise attack. Even though I was very confused. But immediately there were 20 more teams rushing towards the location of the signal flare. Successful selection. Get reward. 0.3 card chakra. A familiar sound came from Obito's ears. A warm current surged into his body. His tired limbs also received some relief. Call. After killing the last person in front of him, he let out a long breath. Except for a few rock shinobi ninjas who saw something bad and ran away. The remaining 20 or so people were all lying here. Obito has 2 blood inheritance limits, Kamui and lava style. Have no fear of these rock shinobi without cheats at all. Even with only 2 Kamui in hand, he is completely invincible. The only thing that limits him is the chakra. If chakra had enough control, he would dare to go to the kingdom of earth alone. Of course, this is just a beautiful fantasy. The battle just now. He had consumed half of his chakra and was feeling a little weak. Because I just rewarded myself, dog head. He sat cross-legged and began to refine the chakra. It doesn't matter how much it is, as long as you can recover a little bit. There will probably be a fierce battle soon. I miss you so much suddenly, where would you be? In my dreams, in my heart, in my singing. Obito hummed a tune from his hometown. Suddenly I felt a bit emo. That guy who bothers him every day will never come here to beat him again. After a stick of incense. When 60 rock shinobi ninjas appear. Seeing the scene in front of them, everyone looked dull. Only visible on the purple-brown earth made of blood coagulation. A young man sat cross-legged on top of the corpse, humming a tune leisurely. As if waiting for their arrival. Someone trembled. Are you kidding? So many people died at the hands of this brat. The ground was littered with corpses in strange shapes. It looks intimidating. As ninjas who had been on the battlefield, it was not like they had never seen the world before. But the scene in front of him was really impactful. A boy who was half a man's height killed nearly 60 people by himself. Sitting on the corpse calmly, waiting for the enemy to arrive. What kind of grace is this? Someone couldn't help but ask. Who are you? Obito closed his eyes slightly. While racing against time to restore chakra. While pretending to be calm, he said. I am Obito, the #1 among my peers in Konoha, surpassing countless geniuses. My teacher, I believe you have heard of it. He is the fastest man in the world, the famous Yellow Flash in the ninja world. Hiss. Rock shinobi. There was a sound of air conditioning sucking among the crowd. One after another, it's like deflating a tire. Someone said thoughtfully. It turns out he is a disciple of Yellow Flash. No wonder he has such strength at such a young age. Rock Shinobi A said timidly. Isn't it said that if you encounter a Yellow Flash, you can give up the mission? Then if you encounter his apprentice, will you also? Rock Shinobi Odo next to him spat and said disdainfully. Bah, I was scared out of my wits by a kid. Lousy is ashamed to be with you. Rock Shinobi A felt ashamed and lowered his head. But at this moment, Rock Shinobi coughed twice and said. Ahem, Captain, please tell me something, should we withdraw or not? Rock Shinobi A. Obito looked at the Rock Shinobi people who were afraid of entering for the time being, and his thoughts were flowing in his mind. He just gave the name Minato Sensei. Just to shock the other party and let you regain mana for a while. As for saying he is Obito, it is just to confuse the other person. Obito. With such a distinctive nickname, it sounds like he has great leg skills. If a fight breaks out soon, it is estimated that many people will be wary of his legs. Then he can take the opportunity to talk to the other party. I said a few heartfelt words. Several rock shinobi leaders look at me and I look at you. I really couldn't make up my mind for a while. Not to mention the opponent's superior strength, he is still the same yellow flash guy. After killing 10 teams, not only did he not escape, he was sitting here with a prickly tone, waiting for their arrival. He looks so confident and bluffing no matter how he looks at it. Wrong. The person in charge narrowed his eyes and suddenly spoke. If this ham Obito really has the ability to annihilate us, why does he have to tell us so much? This kid must have spent a lot just now, and now he is taking the time to regain his strength. Someone beside him echoed. Yes, I think so too. He should be delaying time for his companions. Don't give him a chance to breathe, get rid of him quickly. Several people in charge were talking loudly on purpose. The rock shinobi ninja next to him heard their words. Everyone was calm and looked at Obito with a ferocious smile. It must be a great achievement to kill this ham Obito. Haha, I'm going to cut off his head and give it to Yellow Flash. Tisk tisk, I'm really looking forward to the yellow flashing expression when the time comes. Obito raised his eyebrows. Carrying the short sword, get up from the corpse. Stop beeping around, come here and touch me if you have the guts. Say it. He randomly selects a lucky team. He rushed towards the other party. Several responsible persons waved their hands. Immediately, several teams of rock shinobi ninjas came forward and surrounded Obito. Do we need to separate several teams to capture this kid's companions? Well, don't worry yet, wait. Nani. While several people in charge were talking, rock shinobi ninjas surrounding Obito. They fell down one after another, with less than a second between them. Someone growled, why don't we separate ourselves and let's go together? Let's deal with this brat first. The other side. Kakashi took Shikaba and the others with him. Still driving non-stop. There were only a few rock shinobi chasing them. The 4 of them fought and retreated. Finally, under Liu Yu's plan, he successfully got rid of his pursuers. Ayako whispered, it's really strange that after we stayed behind the enemy's rear for so long, only so many people came after us. Liu Yu said in a complicated tone. There's nothing surprising. Obito-kun must be behind, attracting most of the enemy's attention. To be honest, I can't even imagine what kind of danger he is facing right now. As soon as he said these words, Liu Yu regretted it. He looked at Lin aside. I found that the girl's eyes were indeed moist again. Kakashi glanced at Shikaha and comforted Rin. Lin, don't worry. As soon as I get you to a safe place, I will turn back and bring Obito back. Lin's tears were like broken beads, pouring out of her eyes uncontrollably. Obito-kun. Can he really come back? After hearing Lin's words, the hearts of the 3 of them sank. Actually they know. Obito probably can't come back. That guy chose to sacrifice himself for them. It's just that everyone subconsciously avoids it. I don't want to face this fact. What if Obito really has a trump card? But there is no trump card that can defeat 1 against 100. The 4 of them continued on their way in silence. At this time, Kakashi suddenly felt something faintly heating up his lower back. Next moment, a handsome figure appeared and landed smoothly in front of the 4 people. Kakashi exclaimed, Minato-sensei. Then he reacted immediately. It's the kunai you gave me, with the spell you left on it. Meet Minato. Several people seemed to have found their backbone all of a sudden. Lin grabbed Minato's sleeve and whimpered. Minato-sensei, Obito-kun is still behind, go and save him. Minato's expression changed. What happened? Let me tell you. Shikaha patted Lin who was crying and took a step forward and said. Minato-senpai, this is what happened. Shikaha's thoughts were clear. He quickly told Minato everything that had just happened. Minato's face was as gloomy as water. You guys wait for me here. The teacher will come back as soon as he goes. Kakashi said urgently. Teacher, I'll go with you. His father has left him. If I lose that guy again. He really didn't know what the meaning of his life was. Behave, Kakashi. Minato left a message. A kunai flew out and the whole person disappeared instantly. He's in a hurry. Kakashi looked at Minato's disappearing figure and clenched his fists tightly. Please, Mr. Minato, we must bring that guy back. Minato's figure flashed. We are getting closer and closer to the place Liu Yu described. He could already smell something fishy like rust. That's the smell of blood. And this smell, it's so rich that it's almost pungent. Minato's brows knitted together. The speed couldn't help but get a little faster. Obito, hold on. The teacher is here, the open space outside the bamboo forest. Obito was panting, and the hand holding the knife began to tremble. Opposite him, of the 60 rock shinobi ninjas, there are now only a dozen left. They were stunned by Obito's weird ability. None of them dared to get close at all, and kept wandering and outputting in the distance. Someone said suspiciously, "This kid seems exhausted." Someone beside him responded immediately. "It seems so. He hasn't used the blood succession limit for a while." To be on the safe side, they tested it for a while. Then I discovered that this ham Obito was really about to lose his strength. More than a dozen people looked at each other, all showing expressions of surprise. "What are you waiting for? Come on, kill ham Obito. Go ahead," someone suddenly said. Did you hear any strange noises?" One person pricked up his ears and said with a strange expression. "There seems to be a melody that I don't understand." Someone urged from the front. "You two, stop talking nonsense, kill this kid first and then talk." Looking at the rock shinobi rushing towards him, Obito sighed helplessly. Been fighting for so long. The chakra I was still quite full of was finally exhausted. At the moment when his physical strength was exhausted, magical music began to sound in his ears. The sun shines brightly, and the rooster sings 3 songs. The little magpie builds a new house, the little bee gathers honey. The joy of labor is indescribable, and the creation of labor is the most glorious. The corners of Obito's mouth curled up slightly. "Here comes my buff. Labor is the most glorious BGM. In your BGM, no one can be better than you. When your physical strength is exhausted, 20% of your maximum physical strength can be restored instantly. This so-called physical strength value also includes chakra. It's just that this BGM is really hard to describe." How to describe it? It's like Kagaya opened the door for Black Zetsu. Zetsu is home. After returning to 1/5 of the state, Obito raised the short sword again and started a new round of harvesting. There were bursts of wailing sounds. This kid is actually pretending. How shameless. I didn't expect that my old Maori would die by ham Obito's knife. By the way, don't you use your legs? Obito was speechless and gave the old man in front of him a chill. "You're a dead person, why are you worrying so much? It should be right here." Minato, a flying thunder god. In an instant, he passed through a bamboo forest and arrived at the open space behind the bamboo forest. Obito. Minato froze on the spot. He only saw his apprentice. He leaned against a tree tiredly, still holding the short sword in his hand. The bodies of rock shinobi were spread around him. They were so densely packed that there were at least 70 or 80 of them. Obito heard a familiar voice. He opened his eyes and said hello with a smile. Mr. Minato, you are here." The smile on the young man's face. Against the backdrop of the blockbuster bloodline, it looks particularly eerie. But Minato said with a sore nose. "Sorry Bito, the teacher is late." Obito shook his head gently and said meaningfully. "No, Teacher Minato, you are not late this time, there is still a chance for everything." Minato stepped forward to help Obito up in distress. He doesn't care about the bloodline on his apprentice at all. Gave him a big hug. A long time. Minato let go of Obito and spoke hesitantly. "Obito, what are you?" He wanted to ask why Obito's strength improved so rapidly. He knew that his apprentice had fighting prowess comparable to that of Jonin. But he glanced at the 70 or 80 corpses lying on the ground. Only then did Minato realize that Obito's strength was much more than that. Obito knew what Minato wanted to ask. He lowered his head and said in a complicated tone. "After Naganomi died, I opened 3 Tomo Sharingan out of grief. Moreover, I also mastered the bloodline limit of lava style." Minato pondered. 3 Magatama and lava style. He glanced at the body on the ground. Many corpses were found to have traces of burns. Well, that should be it. But this chakra, his apprentice, is really terrifying. It must be at least about 1% of Kushina's. And with Bito's current strength, he is probably already at the forefront of the ninja world. It's just a pity that Nagano child. By the way, Mr. Minato, Obito said with some frustration. We failed to complete the task you assigned us. Minato nodded slightly and said, "Teacher knows, teacher just met Kakashi and the others, and they told teacher everything." Obito asked quickly after hearing this. "Are they okay?" Minato said in a gentle tone. "Don't worry, everyone is safe. I'm just worried about you, especially Lin." Obito breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that everyone was okay. "But when I think of Lin's worried look, I feel a little worried." Minato rubbed Obito's head. "Okay, let's leave the next thing to the teacher. You rest here quietly, the teacher will take you back soon." Obito nodded upon hearing this. "Okay, Mr. Minato." Yellow Flash takes action himself. "Then of course there is no need for him, Obito. I just hope that Mr. Minato can kill all those rock shinobi." Because he was afraid of the 3 or 2 people who had just escaped. It will reveal his ability. He still wants to hide his ability and do some big things. Minato lives up to its name of Yellow Flash. After disappearing with a swish, it didn't take long. Whoosh, came back again. Obito stood up and asked nervously, "Minato-sensei, have you blown up the canopy bridge? Then you killed all those rock shinobi?" Minato said nothing and just nodded. Although he yearns for peace. But he is definitely not the kind of pedantic person who would show mercy to the enemy in war. What's more, this is an invasion war started by Iwagakure. Phew, great. Obito breathed another sigh of relief. Thus, the possibility of Kamui being exposed is much smaller. Of course, he probably couldn't hide his strength. After this battle, together with his cousin Shisui, he may become a well-known figure in the ninja world. Instant Shisui, Obito. Well, compared with my cousin's name, I feel so good about this title that I chose casually. Forget it, don't think about it anymore. Anyway, everyone who fought against him died. You can change it to another one when the time comes. As long as these guys are not exposed, he will not die. Quack, quack, quack. However, Obito is still too naive. There are so many ways to convey a message in the ninja world. Perhaps Rock Shinobi's holdovers. There was no time to record his detailed abilities and pass them back to the Kingdom of Earth. But if it's just a name, it can still be done. Collecting code names. Some readers mentioned Shitong. I think it's pretty good. Are there any more? Minato stretched out his hand towards Obito and smiled gently. Come on, Bito, the teacher will take you home. Obito held Minato's hand and nodded heavily. Whoosh, just the blink of an eye. Minato brought Obito to Kakashi and others. Minato-sensei, Obito-kun. The moment Lin saw Obito, her tears couldn't stop flowing out. Don't cry, Lin-chan, I'm back. Lin whimpered and was about to throw herself into Obito's arms. Obito waved his hand and said, Lin-chan, stop hugging me, I'm covered in blood. I rubbed myself against Minato-sensei just now, but, Before Obito could say anything, Lin had already hugged him tightly. Carrot, do you know how worried I am about you? Woohoo. Obito was a little at a loss. Don't cry, Lin-chan, I won't let you worry in the future, I promise. After a while, Rin let go of Obito. Obito thought to himself that he could finally take a breath. But the next second, Kakashi hugged him and whispered into his ear in a deep voice. Next time I won't leave you behind. If anything happens, we will shoulder it together. With that, he let go of Obito. Shikaha then hugged Obito and patted his back and said, It'll be good to come back, it'll be good to come back. I have already lost a friend today, and I don't want to lose another one. After the two hugged each other for a while, Shikaha let go of Obito. Obito simply continued to raise his arms and looked at Ayako aside. Come, and sent you. Ayako hesitated a little. Well, although Obito-kun came back alive, Ayako was also very happy. But Ayako has no intention of hugging you. But when I think about the sacrifice Obito made for them today. Ayako stepped forward and gave Obito a hug. I go. Ayako, is she that big? Obito was immediately stunned. After Ayako hugged Obito, she ran away with a blushing face. Minato stood nearby, watching the scene with a smile. After the little people finished communicating, he spoke. Let's go back to Konoha. Yoshi, on the way back. Shikaha asked, Minato-senpai, where do you think this war will go next? Minato said after thinking carefully. Rock Shinobi was already at a disadvantage on the front line, and now our supply line has been destroyed by us. This war shouldn't last long. Konoha will win soon. Lin said sincerely. Very good. She is kind-hearted and hates violence like war. Obito glanced at the girl he loved and made up his mind. Even for Lin, he would reshape the world. Minato said, looking at the 5 little guys. You are equally responsible for Konoha's victory. Including the kid Nagano-ha, everyone's sacrifices are not meaningless. It is because of you and the countless Konoha people who are bleeding on the front lines that everyone in the Land of Fire can live a peaceful life. Kakashi heard this and nodded silently. In his mind, his father's cheek appeared again. Father, if you were still alive, you would definitely be proud of me. As for Ayako at this time. Who is Ayako? Minato and others walked in front. He consciously left space for the young couple behind him to be alone. Lin held Obito's hand and asked with some uncertainty. Obito-kun, is there something wrong with your eyes? I noticed that you squinted your eyes several times when you were looking at something. Minato and the others turned their heads after hearing this. He looked at Obito with some confusion. Obito was shocked. But on the surface, he scratched his head and said calmly. Maybe Sharingan has been used too much and my eyes are a little tired. It should be fine after taking a rest. Lin nodded her head suddenly. Oh, that's it, it's okay. Seeing no one suspicious, Obito looked at his eyes carefully. If Lin didn't remind him, he really wouldn't have paid attention. I am actually nearsighted. According to the experience of the previous life, it should be dozens of degrees. Because his myopia was mild, he didn't pay much attention. What's going on? Wasn't he transformed by Hashirama cells? With confusion, he asked the system in his mind. Brother system, please explain to me why I am still nearsighted. The voice of the system sounded in his mind. Ding, brother is here. Host's current development of Hashirama cells is still at the lowest stage. So frequent use of eye surgery can still lead to myopia caused by visual fatigue. Obito, you clearly didn't even mention the level of development before. System. Host didn't even ask. Obito. He took a deep breath and asked as calmly as possible. Then can you tell me now? Ding. That's natural. The ball in this system must be hard. The system dinged and a light curtain popped up for Obito. Introduction. The development level of Hashirama cells is divided into 4 levels. The following is the impact of different development levels on the host. First level. Reduce Kamui's burden on the host's body, and the host can use basic wood-style ninjutsu. Second level. Greatly reduces Kamui's burden on the host's body, and the host can use mid-range wood-style ninjutsu. Third level. Completely remove Kamui's burden on the host's body, and the host can use high-level wood-style ninjutsu. Level 4. Host can use Senju Hashirama's wood-style ninjutsu and open his own Rinnegan. Obito. System Dad, I forgive you. When Obito saw the introduction of the 4th gear, his mouth almost watered. Circled eyes. That is a power that transcends pink eye. The highest eye power known as the eye that controls life and death. And Hashirama's wood style. If he could get it, wouldn't he be able to kill a tailed beast with one hand? You are saying that your power is too strong. Then with a bang, 9 Tails was pushed to the ground with one hand. Or throw out a true several thousand hands, and then give the opponent 2 hands in a cool way. He had all the lines figured out. I already gave you 2 hands, but I gave you a chance and you didn't use it. Well, in terms of chakra, it may be a little lacking. But this does not affect Obito's enthusiasm. He asked a little excitedly. System Dad, how can I improve the development of Hashirama cells in my body? System. Open the crotch. Bah, let's do multiple choice questions. Obito. I don't know if it's an illusion. He always felt that as his strength improved, the system seems to be becoming more and more user-friendly. It is no longer like before, only coldly issuing tasks. They all interact with him and make fun of him. Ding. Obito looked at the light screen that appeared in front of him and fell into deep thought. Option 1. Imagine that you are a tree, bury your feet in the soil every day, and bathe in the sun motionless for half an hour for a year. Completion reward. Level 2 development level. Option 2. Grind the bones of Hashirama into powder and drink 100 grams every day for a year. Completion reward. Level 2 development level. Option 3. Use wood style ninjutsu every day for half an hour in total, for 1 year. Completion reward. Level 2 development level. First, eliminate option 2. Let's not talk about whether he can touch Hashirama's body. Just soaking other people's bones in bone soup is a bit strong. Pass. As for options 1 and 3, it takes about the same amount of time and is not that difficult to complete. It's just that option 1 may lead to social death when completed. So I definitely chose option 1. What kind of bike do you need if you can stand still and complete the task? I accept social death, after the group arrived in Konoha. They all looked relieved. Only here, they don't have to be on tenterhooks, they don't have to worry about anything. Because most ninjas are still fighting on the front lines. The streets of Konoha seemed particularly deserted. Minato turned around. With a smile on his face, he said to the 5 little guys. Everyone has worked hard on this mission. Please go back and rest first. The teacher will report to Master Hokage. Everyone responded one after another. Okay, Minato-sensei, senpai. After Minato leaves, Lu Yu said with gloomy eyes. Then Ayako and I will leave first. We have to inform his family of Bo's death. Lin's eyes were slightly red. Shikaha-kun, let me go with you. After all, Bo is here to save me. Shikaha shook his head and said. No need, just the 2 of us will go. Let's go first. Say it. He took Ayako and walked towards Naganomi's house. Obito sighed and looked at Kakashi beside him. What about you, what are your plans? Kakashi said calmly. Go home, eat, sleep, and practice. Obito nodded and said. I understand. Then you can go back and cook. I'll go home first to make sure you're safe. Lin-chan, please go home first to make sure you are safe. We will meet at Kakashi's house in the evening. Kakashi. Lin nodded her head heavily. Okay, Obito-kun. She hugged Obito tightly, and after a long embrace, she reluctantly left. Kakashi. Woof woof woof. Is it really okay for you to do this in front of me? Just because my summoningmon is a ninja dog, you can't treat me like a dog. Kakashi had a premonition that there would be a big terror tonight. Night. Hitaki Mansion. Kakashi had salty eyes and said nothing indifferently. Obito and Lin sandwiched him between each other, serving each other food. Lin-chan, eat this, it's delicious. Obito-kun, try this meat slice, it's very fragrant. Kakashi looked at the 2 of them with disdain. Can't you just eat your own food? Does it have to be this interesting? Kakashi couldn't bear it anymore and crossed his arms. Shadow clone technique. Another Kakashi, appearing at the dining table. Obito and Lin were both stunned, not understanding what Kakashi was going to do. Only the shadow clone appears. He went to the kitchen and took out a pair of chopsticks, and then started picking up food for Kakashi. The main body, you eat this. The main body, you eat that. Obito. Lin. Kakashi glanced at Obito provocatively. Obito raised his eyebrows. He stood up and walked behind Lin. Then he hugged Lin and gave her a gentle tap on her little face. Kakashi and his shadow clone were stunned. He looked at his shadow clone. Shadow clone was silent for a moment, then disappeared with a pop. Kakashi, why did you disappear like a ghost? Do you think I can kiss myself? After the 3 of them finished eating, the night became darker, like an ink ball that couldn't be dissolved. The 3 of them sat together by the fire and talked. This was their first experience of war. The first time a companion was sacrificed. It is inevitable that there will be some negative emotions in my heart. Let's all share our feelings together. They enlightened and comforted each other and felt much better. Then, Kakashi's nightmare came again. Obito didn't know when he held Lin in his arms. The 2 people were whispering in each other's ears in front of him. Kakashi roared in his heart with grief and anger. That's enough for you 2. As Minato expected. After the canopy bridge was blown up, Iwagakure could not hide his fatigue. On the frontal battlefield, Konoha fought them back to the Kingdom of Earth in one go. The war between the Kingdom of Earth and the Kingdom of Fire has come to an end. It ends with the tragic victory of the Fire Nation. 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. Against all odds, he plans to sign a peace treaty with Iwagakure. When Minato informed Obito of this news, Obito's whole body was about to explode. We obviously won the war, why did we take the initiative to sign a peace treaty with Rock Shinobi? Obviously it was the other side that launched the invasion first, but they didn't have to pay any price. Didn't the sparrows and the others sacrifice their lives in vain? There was a little helplessness in Minato's eyes. Obito, this is something that has been decided, you. Obito stood up abruptly and rushed out angrily. I'm going to find Grandpa Hokage myself. Ask him why he did this. Why? Minato looked at Obito's leaving figure and let out a long sigh. However, there was no stopping Obito. Because, although he understands the purpose of third generation, he himself does not support this approach. Outside the Hokage's office, Obito ran over aggressively. Where did this daring kid come from? The Anbu ninja at the door frowned and raised his hand to push Obito aside. But who knew that the young man opposite didn't even look at her? He pulled her back and pushed her to the ground. Immediately, he entered the Hokage office angrily. Anbu ninja. She sat on the ground and couldn't recover for a long time. What happened just now? I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.